Hello, everyone. If I could just have some quiet in the room, please. Elder Lawrence Jones, please. There you are. Come on up. Go ahead.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here today. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, for life, for health, and for strength. We thank you for being in our right mind, the use and activity of our limbs. You have been good to all of us. The scriptures say in 1 Timothy 2:1, I exhort therefore first of all that prayer, supplication, intercession, and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings and all that in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceful life with all godliness and honest. For this is good and acceptable in the sight of God, our service. So, Lord, we pray for men everywhere. We pray for our president. We pray for our governor. And we pray the blessing on this county commissions. The county mayor, the county manager, the county attorney, and all the leadership in Brevard County. Father, I pray your blessing upon this county, every employees, every law enforcement, every first responder, a blessing upon every business, place of worship, and every residential in the city, in the county. The scriptures say in Psalms 127:1, except the Lord keep the city, the watchman wake in vain. O Lord, keep our county, and bless it the more, and let it prosper and grow. And I ask all these blessings in the name of our Lord, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. All right, and with that, I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Tuesday, April 5th Board of County Commission meeting. Commissioner Pritchett.
Yes, join us for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I have no minutes for approval, so moving on to resolutions. Item E1, Commissioner Pritchett.
Thank you, ma'am. We have somebody here from the Child Abuse Prevention. I thought I recognized your pinwheels. Hey, welcome, and thank you for doing this. I'm going to read this, and if you want to say a few things, we would love that. Whereas Florida's bright future depends on healthy development of children, and whereas the adverse childhood experiences, including the abuse and neglect of children, can cause severe and costly developmental consequences for children. And whereas every child has a right to a safe and happy childhood where they are educationally they develop well and they're emotionally on track. And whereas it's vital that we all make children a top priority and take action to support all aspects of development and competency of all children. They are the hope for our future. Whereas during the month of April, child prevention abuse in Florida and these four-syllable words, collaboration, help me out, Dr. Zonka.
Collaboration.
Thank you, that word. With Governor's Office of Adoption and Child Protection and the Florida Department of Children and Families and the Child Abuse Prevention Task Force of Brevard implements Pinwheels for Prevention. This is a statewide coordinated campaign aimed to increase the awareness of child abuse prevention efforts by encouraging healthy child development, positive parenting practice, and community support. And the blue and silver pinwheel displays in this campaign symbolizes the health and happiness that all children deserve. And whereas Child Abuse Prevention Month is an important opportunity to urge all Floridians to engage in activities that strengthen families and provide optimal community environment for healthy child development. Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve this resolution this April 2022.
I have a motion by Commissioner Pritchett, second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Go ahead.
Every year we come back here. We are a conglomerate of all the child abuse prevention agencies here in Brevard County. We have been working tirelessly to ensure our children remain safe. That's why the pinwheel represents a happy, healthy child. So that's why you'll see these all over, hopefully Brevard County, as you're driving around, just to remind us we all play a role in child abuse prevention. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. It seems like we just did this like 2 months ago.
I know, it's crazy.
Doesn't seem like
All right, moving on to item E2, Commissioner Pritchett.
Thank you, ma'am. It is a privilege to have on staff Miss Virginia Barker. She's here, right? And we're excited to get to honor her tonight with an award that we have. And County Manager, will you kind of explain what this award is that we're giving our Director of Natural Resources?
Thank you. The county has an Excellence in Action program, and as part of that program, we have a variety of recognitions that are available. Probably the highest level recognition is called Brevard's Best Award, and it comes from anyone from a director level or above can nominate someone for that. In this case, Commissioner Pritchett made a recommendation for recognizing Virginia as one of Brevard's best under our Excellence in Action program. The criteria that applies for that includes consistently producing a quality product or service, listening, expressing ideas effectively, providing feedback, achieving objectives beyond what's required, being enthusiastic, self-motivated, respecting others, employees, recognizing and promoting development, and supporting the missions and goals of the county. What was specifically stated by Commissioner Pritchett in requesting this as making this recommendation was Ms. Barker has scrupulously managed a $283 million plus budget to date, successfully trained new staff in Natural Resources Department that's contributed to positive results in improving the health of the Indian River Lagoon, where we are aware of her tireless efforts and the great responsibility placed on her shoulders. Ms. Barker is always professional and works well with the Board of County Commissioners. So we are bringing this recommendation forward and seeking the board's approval, and we are very happy to recognize Virginia for all she's done for the county and all the citizens of Brevard.
Thank you. Ms. Barker, I want to say that for the last few years, all the things that you've had to maneuver through, and especially with elected officials, you've had to probably take as many hits as elected officials. And you've been very focused on what you're doing. You're strong in what you do. You allow us to have opinions and have voices. You let everybody help participate with this. And I think you hold your office very honorably. And I do appreciate everything you've done, and especially the last year or so, all the things that you've had to really push through, because this is not an easy assignment. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Yeah, I would just like to speak to that. You've been wonderful to work with for the last 7 years, and we put in a lot of time going to meetings back in 2016 when the ballot initiative was coming up for the half-cent sales tax. So I don't know how we could have ever gotten anybody that cares more and does more than you did. So I just want to say thank you.
And I want to personally thank you. I mean, in the beginning, I think, it's hard when you don't always agree, but, I appreciate not just your knowledge that you were able to share with me, but just your willingness to listen. And I appreciate, what you've had to endure the last 6 months to 8 months. And I think that no county employee should have to endure that, because unlike the rest of us, you really can't defend yourself. And it's up to us to do that. So keep us informed. I would just say moving forward, don't let people say or do things that hurt you, because it hurts us and it hurts us as a county. And nothing, I think, bothered me more than to see that happen. And I felt helpless for you, and I don't think it was deserved, because I think you worked very hard. You've worked very hard to get where you are, and you work very hard every day for this county. So I just appreciate everything that you do. So thank you.
You're all going to go down?
Sure.
Photo with her?
Custom made.
I want to thank the board, and I want to accept this on behalf of the Natural Resources Department. You know, we take direction from a wonderful board, and you give us your policy direction, and you explain it, and you help us implement it. I have to thank the county manager and all of both assistant county managers and the county manager's staff, all the directors, the support that I've had. I just passed my 25-year mark. It's really incredible, and of course my family, who's continued to put up with my crazy hours. But the natural resources staff are just completely mission-driven, and they're about implementing the board's policy to balance the environment, economic, and social factors of this fantastic place that we live in. We have a wonderfully engaged community, including business leaders and real estate and NGOs, the Citizen Oversight Committee, the Boating and Waterways, BMAC Committee, the D2 Dredging Committee, all sorts of numerous working groups, all working together, coming together in partnership and collaboration to ensure quality of life here in Brevard County. We just have this extraordinary team and this amazing office culture that allows us to accomplish great things and to lead by example. So we just have some random examples of that, starting with adoption of the state's first turtle-friendly lighting ordinance, and then developing turtle-friendly beach nourishment design. Everything from sand quality to sand slope, incorporation of a dune, planting that dune with sea oats, those weren't done. That's something that we worked with the agencies and the researchers to figure out what a turtle-friendly beach would look like and get those changes to standard state and federal permits changed, and those are now incorporated into standard design elements for federal projects in the state of Florida. We've worked with just numerous agencies and the port and the Air Force Base on our beach projects with all the municipalities along the shoreline, building trust with the community and growing respect that allows us to accomplish many things. Our underground storage tanks program, our petroleum cleanup, they are so good, they're so efficient, they're so effective that the state contracted with us to implement their programs in 4 other counties. So we cover 5 counties protecting the state's groundwater. Our permitting section continues to keep up with unprecedented rates of building permits and provide timely reviews to the development community. The Vieira wetlands, we were asked to assist in helping to design that so that it would be an amenity. And our utilities director may not appreciate how successful we were, but that has brought in 200,000 annual visitors a year because of the way that project was designed. We developed the monofilament recovery and recycling program, those MRP bins that you see at beaches and boat ramps, and that program has gone nationwide. I've seen them in parks across the country. It's really spectacular to see things like that just grow. Our stormwater program. In 1992, we pioneered the idea of a baffle box. It was the staff's idea to add baffles to a regular sediment box and improve the reduction of sediment flows. And that's one of the most standard best management practices in Florida and around the country now. Our first project was actually in District 5 on Riverside Drive at the corner of Bahama, and it cost $7,800. More recently, we partnered with Melbourne on installation of the largest baffle box east of the Mississippi at Cliff Creek. We've also worked with local governments and state and federal governments on the total maximum daily loads and the basin management action plans, collaborating with stakeholders to better understand what the diet needs to be to get our lagoon back to health, and working with the Florida Stormwater Association on how to do that. We piloted vegetation harvesting, looking at what Patrick Air Force Base was doing, and then working with Melbourne Tillman to get harvesters. Then the county acquired their first harvester, and now the Lagoon program is awarding grants to other stakeholders to expand their harvesting programs that not only reduce the nutrients getting to the lagoon and maintain flood reduction, but also reduce our reliance on herbicide use in those waterways. For the Save Our Lagoon program, we've completed 57 projects to date. There was one that should have been coming online this week. We were not able to get confirmation from Palm Bay today whether they flipped the switch or not on their major wastewater treatment plant upgrade. We have 14 projects in construction, and those projects are removing 100,000 pounds of nitrogen per year that would have otherwise been reaching the lagoon. Through the board's action on a moratorium and our other adjacent counties, there are no biosolids being placed in the Indian River Lagoon watershed anymore. When the hurricane in 2017 created septic or sewer overflows, we quickly worked with the utilities department to try to understand why our system was overflowing. And we did a pilot project, and that led to a current contract that's getting started at the end of this month to smoke test the lines at 40,000 homes in Brevard County and to find leaks and repair those leaks. And you've adopted ways that we can enforce that those repairs actually happen. We have an ongoing groundwater study that is measuring the sources of pollution and measuring the success of our solutions. That demonstrated that our concerns about reclaimed water were correct. And so those reclaimed water was now included in Senate Bill 712 by the legislature last year, the Clean Waterways Act. And so all of those wastewater treatment plants are having to upgrade to advanced wastewater that discharge, if they're discharging to impaired water bodies. They also have to adopt asset management plans, maintenance plans, so that we can reduce sewage overflows. I've had the opportunity to serve on the statewide stormwater technical advisory committee to try to improve the statewide stormwater rules, not just for Brevard, but throughout Florida. And the on-site septic OSTDS, the technical advisory group, we need more nitrogen-reducing septic options in the state of Florida, and so we need to figure out how to get those technologies in, how to get them approved, how to get them permitted, how to get them implemented, and that's what this technical working group has been working with DEP and the Department of Health. We've also tested some innovative technologies to help the state with streamlining those technical reviews. With muck removal, not only are we removing solids before they rot and create more problems in the lagoon, but we've found a way to scrub the dissolved nutrients out of the return water before it goes back to the lagoon. And so we're scrubbing that water to the advanced wastewater treatment standards. We just found out that we are receiving a $1 million pilot grant to harvest algae from the lagoon, from a technology that has been successful in Lake Jessup, and now we're going to test it in our marine estuarine waters. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be the Natural Resources Director and to lead this amazing Save Our Indian River Lagoon program. It's been a great honor, or continues to be a great honor, to hear citizens' stories about how they connect with the lagoon and why it's so important to them and their families, and their connection to this incredible place that we know as Brevard. That was illustrated to me when we cranked up this oyster gardening program several years back. And the first training, we had signed up about 25 volunteers, but 76 showed up. And it's just been like that ever since. We've had over 1,500 participants in that program, including elected officers. Just an amazing community support for what we're trying to do here. So we're making progress. We're following the data. We're sharpening the saw. We're developing new technology. We're adapting as we learn more. And great days and great things lie ahead of us. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Say something. I just want to say that you were speaking about all the accomplishments. So one of the accomplishments you mentioned was the monofilament line. I had no idea that originated here, really. I've seen those things on my jet ski trips in Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, New Jersey. They're everywhere. It's amazing. Way to go.
All right, moving on to the resolution proclaiming the week of April 10th through 16th as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. So come on up, folks. I told you, Sheriff, not to come without that dog.
He's in the back. You mean Florida's top dog?
Yes. Make sure you mention that at the end of this, please. Because I think everybody had a hand in working for that. I do.
There's no doubt. The whole community was behind me. So.
All right, I'll let you introduce your team after I'm done reading this, if that's okay.
Well, many of them that are standing here with us are the people that are being recognized, the people that are being honored, and rightfully so, our telecommunicators that are truly the first line of defense for our citizens. They're the ones that our citizens are talking to when they call in and working with them, and they feel every call they get, they are working it from both ends, trying to help our citizens and also helping our patrol deputies, our police officers as they're responding to these calls. So what you see standing is just a small group of our telecommunicators for all of our law enforcement and fire rescue operations within the county. And to say that these people are heroes is really an understatement. They are perhaps the people that hold us all together the best. They are the glue that is making these calls work, is saving lives, and they do not get the credit they truly deserve. They work long hours. They deal every emotion when they're on that phone. At times, I think they feel helpless because they can't be there on scene to actually get their hands in and help. But they don't realize what they actually do, and that is they save lives each and every day. And we love them. We're proud of them, and we owe them a great debt of gratitude. So, Chief, I don't know if you want to add to that, sir.
Without a doubt, they are our lifeline. The firefighters and the deputies and the police officers throughout the entire county at times only have the voice in the microphone. And it is truly, as the sheriff said, they are our lifeline. Now, I would love to see in years to come them become part of the public safety umbrella, because the PTSD doesn't just affect the folks that are in the field. When you answer a 911 call and unfortunately hear someone take their own life because they don't want to do it by themselves, you can't unhear those things. So we're going to be pushing with the state to have them recognized as public safety under the umbrella of police and fire. But thank you for this.
That's great.
Thank you, Sheriff.
The only other thing that I would add is having many years ago work patrol, having somebody on the other end of that radio that understands you. And I think if I asked everybody standing in the back of the room, all of those in uniform, our telecommunicators can hear stress in our voice. They can tell when we're not our normal selves on that radio, and it helps them dispatch additional units to us. So they're part of us, and they're just an amazing group that, again, thank you, this entire commission, for recognizing them and recognizing this as Telecommunicators Week here in our community, because they're really something else.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. I'm glad. I know you're busy, and I'm glad you've thought it important to come, because I couldn't do what they do. I mean, people thank me for what I do for my job, and I'm like, no, I think you guys have it so much worse and have to deal with so many, like you said, different emotions. So I appreciate all of you guys. All right, let me read this. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners recognizes that public safety telecommunicators are an integral part of emergency response process nationwide, and whereas the Brevard County Sheriff's Office, Brevard County Fire Rescue, and police departments in Cocoa Beach, Cocoa, Indialantic, Indian Harbor Beach, Melbourne, Palm Bay, Rockledge, Satellite Beach, and Titusville are designated as public safety answering points under the Florida Enhanced 911 Plan in Brevard County, and these agencies employ over 200 individuals as public safety telecommunicators. And whereas the National Emergency Number Association and the Association of Public Safety Communications Officials recognize the week of April 10th through 16th, 2022 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week to acknowledge individuals employed in the public safety telecommunications field. And whereas the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County acknowledges and lauds the dedication and professionalism of public safety telecommunicators in Brevard County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, does hereby declare the week of April 10th through 16th, 2022 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, and commends all telecommunicators for their dedication on duty, professionalism, and commitment to saving lives, property, and the prevention of crime in Brevard County. Done, ordered, and adopted in regular session this 5th day of April, AD 2022. Can I get a motion?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Smith. Second by Commissioner Pritchett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, guys.
Commissioners. While everybody's lined up, I will say we are hiring telecommunicators to join. Wait a minute, I got it. To join all of these heroic men and women. All of the agencies I know are hiring. If you want to go to brevardsheriff.com and apply, we'll get your information to them. So,
Sir, we're at full strength.
Jump in there, Chief.
And I hear you're a great boss.
Everybody, you guys tighten in. You guys, everybody step in tight. Tracy does? Tracy, you have 30 years? 31 years.
Wow. Thank you.
We're in the right place. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to consent. I have some cards on item F5, so I would say we'll bill F5. Commissioner Tobias?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to vote no without comment on. the vote no without comment on F3, Madam Chair.
Can you guys hear us okay? Okay, they're working on it.
Yours is on.
Yeah,
Is your mic on?
I thought mine was on.
No.
Yeah, mine's on, Madam.
Tad, can you hear us? You can hear us now? Okay. Commissioner Tobias, you want to test to make sure you can be heard?
Sure, Madam Chair. I'd like to vote no on F3 without comment.
Any more items, Commission? No? So can I get a motion to pass the consent agenda minus F5 and Tobias with no on F3 without comment?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Tobias, second by Commissioner Smith. F5 is pulled, sir. I pulled it. So we're not voting on F5. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item F5.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. This item was previously tabled from the March 8th, 2022 board meeting. This is a request for the board to make revisions to BCC 67 regarding advisory bodies. The revisions are shown in the agenda packet, include revisions to sections to remove language that's currently now in Chapter 2, which has since been adopted from before, as well as you have also requests to identify the advisory boards that the Board of County Commissioners will require financial disclosures. Currently, we have 4 boards that are filing these financial disclosures, which are listed as Planning and Zoning Board, Board of Adjustment, the Merritt Island Redevelopment Agency, as well as the North Brevard Economic Development Zone.
All right, I have cards on this. Robert Komkowski. And after Robert, Sandra Sullivan. Okay.
Good evening. Robert Komkowski, 7667 North Wickham Road, Melbourne, Florida, 32940, apartment 724. I'm talking about Chapter 2 today, BCC 67. Chapter 2, D1. Any appointed member of an advisory board with land planning, zoning, or natural resources responsibilities has been has been removed from that section, but number 2 says any members of an advisory board whose total budget, appropriations, or authorized expenditures constitutes 1% of the budget of the Board of County Commissions or 100,000, whichever is less, and whose power, jurisdiction, and authority are solely advisory in nature. So would that still cover the Citizen Oversight Committee for Sorrel because their budget is over $100,000? Because I think that being removed would remove the COC, the Sorrel COC, but number 2 would still leave it intact. I'm wanting clarification on that. Again, BCC 67. So D1, any appointed member of an advisory board with land planning, zoning, or natural resources responsibilities has been removed. And number 2 says that any members of an advisory bodies whose total budget, appropriations, or authorized expenditures constitutes 1% of the budget of the Board of County Commissioners or 100,000, whichever is less, whose powers, jurisdiction, and authority are solely advisory in nature. So I'm asking if the Save Our Indian River Lagoon Citizen Oversight Committee is being removed in number 1. And if it is, would number 2 still be a requirement for the financial disclosures? Because I don't understand then what number 1 is removing, or which Citizen Oversight Committees it is.
Okay, I don't know if you're waiting for an answer right now, but we'll probably discuss as a board because we haven't made any decisions on this item yet. It's just a proposed language.
Thank you for that. Speaking of citizen oversight committees, I was wondering about the language of citizen oversight committees and policies per district. So advisory bodies, I was told because I'm a candidate, I cannot be put on a citizen advisory committee per District 4's policy. I did follow up with a county attorney, and they said there was no written policy other than the email I received stating that. Although for the prior 8 months, I was told that I could be put on the Transportation Planning Organization board, and suddenly I was told with email correspondence that I couldn't be. So I did follow up with county attorney last week, and I'm going to email correspondence to figure out more there. Thank you.
And honestly, it was probably just the commissioner's policy, because, yeah. Ms. Sullivan?
Sandra Sullivan, South Patrick Shores. That handout is from an internal audit recommending conflict of interest forms. So as it relates to this, transparency and accountability is a core function of good government. Brevard Commission should be strengthening financial disclosures. And there's a question, we are ambiguous about whether there's an intent here to remove the Save the Lagoon Oversight Committee financial disclosures. I would also recommend, based on the document that you see in front of you, that would recommend that to BCC 67, that you consider adding conflicts of interest to advisory boards that are addressing more than $100,000 worth of funds. The requirement of financial disclosure of the COC is important. 66% of voters approved the Save the Lagoon program only because of assurance of oversight in annual audits. The Save the Lagoon advisory was tasked with responsibility and accountability of spending over what is now over $500 million. The Sorrel disclosure form can highlight potential conflicts of interest as well. You all received a letter from 19 stakeholders in 2020 with concerns of conflicts of interest, which I brought this issue to the board last month. Their recommendations included removing all COC members with conflicts of interest. My records request to the Supervisor of Elections only found 3 COC members with financial disclosures, which were done in response to those members serving on other advisory boards. The county failed to fulfill BCC 67 requirement to collect financial disclosures for the Save Our Lagoon Citizen Oversight Committee. Instead of addressing this problem, my question is, are you now attempting to remove Save the Lagoon from the requirement of financial disclosures? We don't know. The RSM internal audit follow-up report identified high-risk assessment with conflicts of interest on the TDC. RSM recommended the TDC adopt and implement a formal, transparent conflict of interest policy, which would include standing committees and subcommittees. This policy should be approved by BOCC. In fact, strengthening your policy of financial disclosures and conflict of interest forms should be done on all boards, in my opinion. This includes the Director of Natural Resources, who did not disclose her husband is a professor of FIT, Ocean Engineering and Marine Sciences, and is applying for state and federal grants that bring tens of millions of dollars to that entity. I respectfully request that you vote to add conflicts of interest forms and strengthen financial disclosure on advisory committees. Thank you.
Ronald?
I don't think my time should start till I bring up it's Ronaldus J. Jurgudis. I spelt it out. I'm concerned with 5, and it's rather interesting that these 2 previous people who discussed this, there should have been a time stop for no response for the first speaker, no response from the county commission. That's unfair. The clock should have stopped. And if this item was tabled at the last meeting, which I believe I was told that there's going to be discussion over it tonight. Well, I got a question in regards to what the policies have been in the past for all these boards, and it just doesn't make sense here. What is going on here? We need to bring this out. And the discussion should have started earlier before citizens make the comments, because we are no longer going to be able to make comments on what you are going to decide. Once you decide, we are going to have to give it through citizens' comments. This doesn't make sense. I mean, let's work together on this to make it happen in this community. I know it's tough being up there. I know certain things, but let's make it easy on ourselves, all of us. You are elected by everyone here who is present or non-present. Let's make this a community. This is wrong. It is so wrong. And the first gentleman, with silence on this board, I know you guys got to think this through, but stop the clock. Or do I have to press a button here to stop the clock? I'm upset as a taxpayer. And let's not hide stuff. If we got to bring out disclosure for all these boards that make decisions, let's bring it out. And conflict of interest. There's nothing to hide here. There should not be anything to hide.
All right, what's the commission's desire, or do you have any comments? Commissioner Pritchett?
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to mention that this is it's almost like a housekeeping thing that's been brought by Ms. Jordan B. The COC doesn't have to do financial disclosure, so it's not like anything's being taken away. It's not anything different than what we are doing. The difference in this board is that it's an oversight board and it doesn't make decisions, and we have a lot of boards that are specific to that. The boards that have to make decisions and are over making financial decisions without coming back to this board, you have to do these. You know, whether or not they do a disclosure, the ones they do, it just kind of says where they work and what kind of businesses they own. I'm not even, it's up to you guys if you want to talk about it. I'm not really sure that this is going to have a lot to do with this board, because everything they do with giving us recommendations, we vote on eventually after anyways. So I'm interested to hear what you guys' thoughts are on this, but the words that go out on this, that makes it sound like something sinister is happening. It's really not. It's just a housekeeping thing that's already been something that's very clear of what we do, and it just kind of states clearly of what we're doing moving forward. So there is good understanding of what boards have to get these forms.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make mention that this is public comment. This isn't public back and forth. If you think that coming up here you start a conversation with the commission, that's not what this period is for. This period is for you to give us your thoughts, your opinions, which we can work with going forward. It's not a time for us a give and take, just to set the record clear.
Is that it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was just going to say, we usually try to hear from the public to get their input before we do bring it to discussion. So while, you know, the public may not have a chance to comment twice, you know, hearing what people's thoughts are, I thought the first gentleman had some good points to make, and obviously brings more questions before this item's actually discussed. And as far as the back and forth goes, I've had complaints from people who've spoken in the past that they don't want to argue with the commissioner and eat up their time. So that is also an argument, and the reason why we try not to engage, because we are taking your 3 minutes when we start to have a conversation. So oftentimes we wait till the end so we can make sure that you get your time. So those are my thoughts, at least on those comments that were made. As far as this item goes, I think Commissioner Pritchett brought up a good point that this is not removing disclosures. These disclosures weren't a requirement. This is actually making it a requirement for the Planning and Zoning Board, the Board of Adjustment, MIRA, and for the North Brevard Economic Development Zone. If the Commission wants to add more boards to that, that's fine, but it was very vague before on which boards would require the financial disclosure. The only question I have, and maybe it's Commissioner Pritchett, did you work on this with Ms. Jornby or no?
No, ma'am.
Or maybe it's for Ms. Jornby. I'm curious as to why item 8 was removed.
Item 8 is actually now currently in our Chapter 2. So we have adopted, since we first had this BCC policy, we actually adopted Chapter 2 in a Uniform Advisory Board code section, so this language is already housed there. Okay. So it's just housekeeping.
Are we actively doing this? Because we have board members that don't even come to half the meetings. And who decides on what's considered an excused absence? Is that just them calling in and saying, I'm not going to be there? Or is it the board voting on whether or not they decide that it's excused, which I don't think is the case, but I get a little upset when we have people who want to be a part of a board and we have members not going to meetings, and that could be better attended by somebody who actually wants to put in the time and show up. So that's sort of my gripe with this, and I don't know how we address that. I don't know if the board has ideas on that. We have important boards and we have people who would like to participate, and we have members that can't show up to half the meetings. So I don't know how we address that. I don't know. I'm looking for ideas, guys.
Well, one thing that we could do is have the chair of the boards reach out to the commissioners who appointed that person. And then the commissioner can touch base with that person and ask them, what's up? You want to be on this board or don't you? If you're not, then fine. We'll find somebody to replace you.
Or maybe a board report of attendance, maybe to the board. And that way it's not left up to that awkward conversation, because I don't want to cause any sunshine issues either. If it's obviously somebody that we've either voted on or somebody that you've brought to the board, say, or the board has voted and ranked on, I just want to be careful. So maybe I
would go to Abby for that.
Now, if we have, like, I don't know, say there's 12 meetings a year and someone doesn't come 6 times out of 12, if the board is aware of that, what is our authority at that point?
What I have seen in the past are local governments that have adopted provisions in their ordinances that actually call out what are excused absences, perhaps going to the hospital, jury duty, some emergency. So at that point in time, an individual has to identify why they were absent, and that would be considered excused. Anything else would be unexcused. And then you have a range of absences that are permissible if they're unexcused. And then if not, then we can bring that back to the board for determination.
Who polices that? Out of curiosity.
It would have to be the chair of the board. They're really the ones who are going to be able to determine. You do have, each board does have a staff liaison, but the staff liaison isn't, they are just serving to support the board. The decision as to, whether something is an excused absence or not, I believe would belong to the chair of the board. So we would have to, seek from them whether someone who's absent is excused or unexcused. And then if the board wants, we can have the liaisons, which I do not believe they've been tracking that in terms of excused, unexcused absences and going to the chair to determine that.
I know
if that's something you want, we could.
And I know we've had issues in the past with quorum, because we haven't had enough board members showing up. So excused or not, anybody can say they have a family emergency. If they're not going to half of the meetings, I don't see how that they're servicing the board or representing well. So I don't know, does the board have the authority at that point to remove members who don't go to half their meetings, or?
We do have.
Or if we find the absences to be in excess?
And let me, if I may, just have a moment to see our Chapter 2, because I don't have that right in front of me.
Because I don't like the idea of putting that on the chair of the board either, of the
I had someone on the P&Z board for one. I had not realized he'd missed so many meetings. And I think Commissioner Tobias brought it up at one. I went and researched it. And so I think if I would have known, I would have been able to do something different. So we do have a communication issue here on these important boards.
And I think Commissioner Tobias had an appointment that went to one meeting and never went back. A P&Z appointment. So, I mean, that's the stuff that I want to...
Those are important because...
Yeah. I mean, it's not your fault, clearly, but I'm just saying it happens, and sometimes we don't find out about it till later.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I don't want to jump the gun here, but I have J1 coming up. In J1, this is an advisory board policy that will hopefully create some uniformity amongst all the boards. Part of that I listed on here as an attendance policy. Okay. So that is one of the issues that clearly needs to be dealt with. And certainly, as you mentioned, it's not just one. Unfortunately, I've had a couple members, but when you have this many boards, and I'm very grateful for the board to cut the number that we've had, but we need to have some uniform policy, and I don't want to leave it on the chair of the board or even the liaison. I think that ultimately comes to us. Mm-hmm. And if we put in our policy, and I'm open to suggestions, this was just to get it started, but if you miss half the meetings, that should, as far as I'm concerned, immediately constitute your withdrawal from that board. I think that you make the action, and we should make that automatic. That's just part of this overarching advisory board uniformity policy, so we don't have to deal with them on an individual basis.
Okay.
Yeah, and we may have to modify the ordinance, because the ordinance specifically discusses unexcused or excused absences, and that was the only point I was making, a distinction between excused and unexcused in terms of it would have to be either the chair or liaison, because who's going to determine if an absence was excused or unexcused? If the board wants to move away from that distinction, then we would just have to modify the ordinance.
Okay. Can we do that on J1, sir? That would be fine.
Oh, excuse me?
We'll be able to do that on J1.
Well, we would have to, J1 will be the policy, but we're also going to have to address the ordinance subsequent to that. Staff can work with the county attorney's office to bring back a proposed modified ordinance that would be consistent with whatever the board determines on the policy side of it.
So, Commissioner Zonka, are you okay if we put this through and then address that other question you had?
Sure. Commissioner Tobias, is that new?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, that's the idea with J1, that this is the beginning, that we come with some uniform policy, and then at our next meeting, once we have all agreed on some sort of attendance policy, location, I've got 6 or 7 here, that we then move forward with permission to advertise and then an ordinance change, that we all have this in one place. But I didn't want to jump the gun here. I know staff has been working extremely hard, and if I didn't get board approval on this, I certainly didn't want either my staff or the county attorney staff to go through with a whole huge ordinance change if I didn't have the support. So this is just, we'll get here in a minute, but this is just for discussion. If we get if we agree on some sort of overarching policy, then we would have that in writing for our next meeting, hopefully for our next meeting to move forward. So that's all this is, just a discussion period, but ultimately I would hope it would end in ordinance, so the responsibility of removing these type of people wouldn't fall on anyone other than the elected officials.
And Ms. Abbey, one more question regarding conflict of interest. Don't we have current conflict of interest, or is it just a declaration, at least for the TDC?
For conflict of interest, and that's confusing the financial disclosure, so that's a little different, but that is actually state law. So, I mean, it comes down from the state as far as determining your conflicts of whether you have a special benefit or loss if you vote on a particular item. So that is you have the Form 8B that has to be filed by any advisory board member.
That's what I thought.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. All right.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Commissioner Pritchett. Second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on to public comments. Rick Heffelfinger? And after Rick, we have Tom Neidert.
Rick Heffelfinger, 2000 Juniper Drive, Cocoa, Florida, 32926. I guess I'm a little confused. Did we just pass J5? We approved the change to BCC 67? Do you answer any questions, or, because I'm confused? We did, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you said that you don't question and answer. I submitted a question concerning whether that item would impact and remove people, and I'm not quite sure I actually got the answer. I mean, you talked about worried about members and whether they're going to attend, and that's kind of talking about stuff that's not really what we're worried about. We're worried that it looks like that you're blocking the ability to find out about the people that are making major decisions, and it's all about the soil, right? I mean, that's where this whole thing started. Somebody started asking questions, people have been digging, so you see the stuff online, and then you're very ambiguous about the answer to, I'm an attorney in an email. That's a written request. It's not a document request, but I had a question and I sent it. But you still don't answer. I mean, do I have to do a records request for a records request? Or do I need an attorney? I'm starting to think I need an attorney. Or maybe the ethics, state ethics. Because this really looks, you know, Commissioner Pritchett talked about the appearance of, you know, trying to, it's not sinister. It sure sounds sinister. I mean, we not long ago just tried to remove somebody from the COC because she was asking questions that you didn't like. And you were going to summarily dismiss her in a motion that came up completely out of order. Does that look sinister? Does that look like you're hiding something? It sure does. So I don't know, you're talking about, you know, you can't even get people to sit on these boards. Half of these boards, do they have minutes? I know that COC, they have minutes. Do these other boards have minutes? I thought Sunshine required they have minutes. I don't know. I don't see any minutes for those people. So, geez, you're worried about boards that don't give you reports? You know, you're trying to thin down the herd. Don't want to spend $5,000 to let them do copies, but you've got a board that's making almost $1 billion, half a billion? Was that the number for that sorrel? They're making major decisions and putting input into that. And you're not worried that they may have conflicts of interest or that their hearts lie somewhere else? It's a huge amount of money. I mean, that is tempting right there. And yet you say, well, we're only worried that people show up. We don't care what they have to say or what, you know, an agenda they may have. I mean, we've thrown that term around. Do these people that complain have an agenda? Yeah, they do. They're taxpayers and they want to know where their money's going. I mean, we got a failing grade. The water clarity's great, but the seagrass is dead. We'll solve that problem when we cull the manatees. Maybe that's the answer. Then we can get rid of the IRL half-cent tax. Let's talk about what's going on, not just, oh, well, you get my point.
What was your question, just so we can try to get you an answer when we're done with public comment? What was your specific question?
My question is there a requirement? Now, maybe this is just the director, because the director is taking does that person have a requirement to disclose conflict of interest forms? Do they have a requirement to disclose financial disclosure? They're controlling a whole lot of money there. And I asked those questions specifically about the director and the COC. I asked 4 questions, yes, no answers. I got no response.
Thank you.
In writing. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Neidert. And after Mr. Neidert, Scott Janus.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Tom Neidert. I live at 1860 Ziminder Street, Northwest Palm Bay. I'm here representing Brevard County Firefighters Local 2969. I've worked for Brevard County as a firefighter paramedic for 25 years now, and I have 30 years of experience in the fire service. My current position as Brevard County Fire Rescue is a District Chief of Special Operations. I have been in this capacity for over 3 years. Special Operations handles major gas leaks, hazardous materials incidents, technical rescues, train incidents, and many other major catastrophes within our county. I was invited by County Commissioner Smith to go on a trip with other Brevard County leaders to ride the Brightline train and meet with Brightline executives. This trip was at no cost to Brevard County, as I paid for it out of my own pocket to gather insight on the risk involved with this new high-speed railway. This trip was very informative. It gave me a baseline of what to expect once we begin our official training. We learned how this training will affect our county residents and visitors. I rode along with commanders from Brevard County Sheriff's Office, local Brevard County leaders, and multiple Chamber of Commerce leaders within the county. I gathered a lot of useful information that will assist us in planning stages of bringing Brightline to Brevard County. Here are some key points gathered from this meeting. The train consists of 2 locomotives, one in the front and one in the rear. It doesn't have a caboose. It's got 4 cars, and each of the locomotives carry 2,400 gallons of biodiesel. The train has common speeds of 79, 110, and 125 miles an hour, depending on population density. The expected speed through Brevard County is 79 miles per hour. This means a railroad stop and a railroad crossing will be shorter than waiting at a stoplight. Each train is equipped with an AED, and staff members are CPR certified. Once again, I would like to thank Commissioner Smith for arranging this trip, and that will let us better serve our fellow residents for Brevard County as we make this crucial step in advancing the future of Brevard. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Smith, for inviting us.
Thank you.
Good afternoon or good evening, Janice Scott. I want to follow up on the comments about financial disclosure, conflict of interest. I think that is the most important thing in government, especially today. Whoever's serving on the boards, especially the numbers of the Soros budget, that's like number 1 in the county right now. It's more money than, and you know, every person who purchases anything in the county has a vested interest in making sure that it goes where we want it to go. And if you're collecting too much money and don't have anything to do with it now, suspend the collection for a while. Thank you on that topic. So I mentioned the last time I was here about the parks and the truth and taxation. I really oppose, and I'm going to say it again, that one taxing authority should not be doing things for another taxing authority. And specifically, it has to do with the parks and doing the properties for the school boards. And I think, Commissioner Zonka, you mentioned that, oh, the interlocal agreements. Well, the things with these schools, many of these schools, they lock down now. You know, that was a thing of days of old. They lock the schools down now, and the public does not get to use those properties. The parks, just to review about why, just for the central parks, it's over a $10 million budget. 5,000 acres are of parklands. I hope that Commissioner Tobias would be looking into some of this as well. This 5,000 acres does not include the Eels properties, but once again, if you believe that the kids in the neighborhoods are using these schools that the county's maintaining the parks, no, they're not. Also, I understand that the schools are thinking of increasing their millage. All the more reason that there should be just some truth and taxation about this. What are we paying for the schools through the county general fund? The city of Rockledge has 4 properties. The city of Cocoa has 9 properties that the county is managing in Cocoa. I'll just move along here, not to bore you to death, but there are, I lost my, here, the school board owned properties is over 40 acres that the school board actually owns that the county is paying to maintain. So I just really would like you all to take a look at this somehow, some way, ask for a report, and just make sure that the taxes are separated out and allocated in the proper bucket. Thank you.
Thank you. Ronaldez?
I don't have to add comment to the F section because people brought it out further that spoke here. However, I am disappointed. I believe the last time it was addressed was a very, very long time as far as all these boards. And I understand certain things happened over time, and there were possibly more pressing issues at the time. But there should be a policy for the boards, and I will agree with Commissioner Tobias that this needs to be looked at more often than not. However, I have a problem with the amount of monies that are being spent for the lagoon. I'm very disappointed at how you ruled for F5. And I'm not going to pontificate, as I was accused of, or tell you what to do. But certainly there's got to be a better methodology to have some oversight on the whole lagoon issue. I will commend Ms. Barker for attempting to do the best. However, you guys need to get with the program and assist with making it happen and listen to the taxpayers. We elected you. You work for us. And I don't care if you term out or whatnot, but when it comes to this, there needs to be transparency. We spend all this money, and I can hear the excuse from public workers that I'm a voter too, but you are affecting tax dollars here, and I want it done the right way, the best way possible, if at all possible. I want consternation at night, and I'm philosophizing right now. And I ran some businesses. I didn't sleep for 24 to 48 hours. 7-8 weeks, I would work 12 hours a day just to make sure that it was attempted to be done the right way. And I expect that from all of you.
Thank you. Ms. Sullivan? And after Ms. Sullivan, Tiona Vasquez?
Sandra Sullivan, South Patrick Shores. I'm very disturbed by F5. I'm going to read on public record. It says any appointed member of an advisory body with land planning, zoning, or natural resources responsibilities. Last time I checked, SORL, Citizen Oversight Committee, is an advisory body that is under natural resources. Now, the optics of giving the Director of Natural Resources an excellent award for contributing to positive results of the health of the Indian River Lagoon, given the continued decline of lagoon seagrass, now at 96% gone. The source of life in the lagoon and missing the 2022 audit greatly diminishes public trust, especially with the concerns of conflicts of interest on the Citizen Oversight Board that was supposed to be providing spending oversight. I'll call this award gaslighting propaganda like you'd see in a communist country. This is on top of a commissioner ignorantly suggesting to call federally protected species, a commissioner that sits on a state IRL council, a special district. He should know better, given better alternatives. Smith said in an interview the cause of seagrass decline is pollution, is correct. So why is pollution not in our Save Our Lagoon plan? The optics are terrible with an F-, failing grade on the lagoon, 1,101 dead manatees last year, and countless other species are dying in the lagoon. The lagoon is the worst in Brevard County. This is the MRC report card. Other places are much better. You know what's different? They address pollution. They have herbicide bans. What did we do here in Brevard? We increased our herbicide budget by 2.5-fold in October. We are the only one with a tax. We're spending the most amount of money. But we have the failing lagoon, and the only area that has a worse lagoon than us is St. Lucie, where they have at least the excuse that Lake Okeechobee discharges to their water. The reason for the failing grade is pollution. It's missing from the plan. And I just want to point out, because I'm running out of time because of this other stuff, the key thing is Tetra Tech oversees the IRL Council. That plan requires pollution in the local plans, which includes Brevard's plan. Tetra Tech is doing both their plan, comprehensive plan that is to EPA, which is in front of you, part of that language, and is a huge question. Why is not in our plan, given that it is dictated to be in our plan?
Tiona Vasquez.
Hello. My name is Tiana Vasquez.
Sorry, I didn't mean to say it wrong. I apologize.
Oh, no, you're fine. I'm a little bit nervous, sorry.
Don't be nervous.
All right. So I came today to talk to you guys because there's a problem. I'm homeless. I live at a hotel on 192. There's about me, I can think of at least 4 other families, and we can't ever find any help. There's no help in Brevard. I've always had my own home. I've always had my own house. I've had the same house, the last one I was in, since 2019. I just left not even 6 months ago, and it has been battle after battle after battle, just trying to find somewhere to live. And it's getting to the point where it's depressing. It's sad. I never really understood the problem until now. Like I see it every day. I've called Salvation Armies. I've called everyone. All of us have, me, the other girls that are there. We have whole families, and we can't get any help anywhere. I'm not sure really what to say. I'm not really sure what to do anymore. I know there has to be something that Brevard can do for the people that live here. We work. I work. I make $15 an hour. My husband owns his own business. I mean, he does lawns. He has like 40 by himself that he does, and we can't find a house. And it is ridiculous. Like this is getting crazy. I don't know what to say, but it's getting to be a lot. There's so many of us that are to the point where we're almost on the streets. I've used up my entire savings just on hotel rooms, my entire taxes just on rooms. We don't qualify for food stamps because we work and, we make too much money. So then we have to worry about hotels every day and food every day, and we're not the only ones. There's just so many. Her bus stop has 3 other kids, and it's right in front of a hotel. And it's just getting to be too much. We need help. That's it.
Where did she go to school?
Krista McAuliffe in Palm Bay.
If you want to reach out, where's Adrian?
In the back.
Yeah, my chief of staff talk to her, and maybe we can help you.
Can I just interject? She has called the county.
Oh, I did today, actually. As a matter, I've called them yesterday. I've called today. The last thing I was told from that situation is they do help with homeless, but only if you have COVID, and that makes no sense.
Let us have a shot.
Okay.
Adrian will reach out to you.
Okay.
Commissioner Preacher?
Thank you.
Part of the problem is that there's not a lot of things in place for, it's okay, sweetheart. And you're really in a catch because you have some income coming in and then you're not sick. We have a crisis right now of affordable housing. Even what we think is affordable out there, the rent's so high, it's terrible. From what I do in my other job, I totally understand. You got my heart. So I'm hoping we can figure something out soon, but thank you for having the courage to come up and say so, and thank you.
Thank you, Tiana. You did great. Elizabeth Baker?
Hi, guys.
Come see him.
I'm Elizabeth Baker. I live in Titusville. My uncles were actually the original owners of what is now Coconuts in Cocoa Beach. So it used to be the Thirsty Turtle back in the 60s. My father's best friend was the owner of Alma's Italian Restaurant. I don't know if you guys remember that, but Timmy was a wonderful, wonderful man. This place, even though I grew up in Ohio, this has been home to me since I was this big. I remember the waters being crystal clear. I remember seeing seahorses, turtles, crabs, horseshoe crabs, just every kind of sea life going on in those rivers forever and ever. And I have been a part of volunteering, documenting this situation. I volunteer with Fight for Zero. I spent a lot of time doing that, and I have been documenting this situation with the manatees for quite a while now, and it has been really hard to watch. And it's upsetting to hear a county commissioner suggest that we would call these animals. It's very upsetting. It's part of why I'm here. But it's not because of those manatees. It's because of the people. The people in this community are fantastic. We want to help. We want to pay extra taxes so that we can fix this lagoon. And 32 years after this being designated a national estuary of significance, we have an F minus minus. I don't know how you get a second minus. I've failed a lot of things in my life, and I've never had two minuses after an F. That's like just digging it in there. It is absolutely disturbing that those comments were made. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be singling you out here, but it was your comments. It's disturbing because you do sit on a board that helps to make decisions. And that information, it's misleading. Well, the problem isn't the manatees. The manatees are at the top of the food chain. This problem started a long, long time ago, and we have got to be addressing the sources of pollution. I'm glad to see that we're dredging. I'm glad to see that we're doing things like upgrading water treatment plants. That is fantastic. But until we stop putting stuff in the water, it's really not going to get better. I don't know how to convey that. I realize that I am not a scientist, as I've been told by this very same board. But it doesn't take a scientist to know that if you put stuff in the water, you messed up your water. So I don't know where to go with this. I've talked to my commissioners. I've been active in the community. I have done all of the things that I as a citizen can do. I voted for that half-cent tax. And now, like a lot of people are questioning, where is that money going? I'm wondering if that is such a good idea, even though I know we need it. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the cards I have. All right. Item H1.
Good evening, Commissioners. H1 is a petition to vacate public utility easement 719 Periwinkle Circle, Barefoot Bay Mobile Home Subdivision. Unit 2 requesting the board to conduct a public hearing and sign the resolution approving vacating part of a public utility easement. Petitioners requesting vacating 1 foot portion of a 6 foot wide public utility easement, and no issues.
All right. This looks like it's in Commissioner Smith. Is that you?
It's D3.
Oh, D3. Commissioner Tobias.
No issues. Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Tobias, second by Commissioner Smith. I don't have any cards on this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item H2.
Good evening, Commissioners. This item requests approval of the third quarter budget supplement. And this mid-year budget supplement gives departments and funds the opportunity to adjust their projected balance forwards that were developed months before the closeout of the fiscal year. So attached to the agenda, you have a copy of all the budget amendments as well as the advertisement that was published in the Florida Today. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a motion by Commissioner Pritchett. Second by Commissioner Tobias. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I have no unfinished business. Item J1. Commissioner Tobias.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as previously said, what I'm going to ask for here is sentiment of the board, obviously dealing with sunshine. I haven't, nor would I ever reach out and ask what your opinion. So this is to bring some uniformity to the boards, at least as many as we can, because obviously they're extremely diverse. I want to begin by saying thank not only this board for indulging me on this quest to thin the herd a little bit, but which we'll get to in a minute on J2, but with hearing these issues. But more importantly, the staff does a fabulous job on all of this stuff. And the fact that they're so complicated, they're so diverse, the reporting is different. I don't think many of them get credit for the work that they do because, quite frankly, we don't require much of it to come back here. So my goal is to create some uniformity so we're able to look at which ones function the best and maybe use some of the best practices on the ones that maybe aren't doing as well as others. So again, I'm going to ask here, because this is very complicated, all this stuff is all over the place. But before I, and staff and the county attorney's office got into the hard work of amending or, in fact, creating a new ordinance, I wanted to see where you guys were on a whole bunch of issues. We've already touched on one of them, which would be attendance. That one is included on one of the 7 that I've listed here. I want to point out this would not include boards which are otherwise required by Florida statute or federal law or are partnership boards not exclusively comprised of county appointments. So together in partnership, which consists of other members representing 16 agencies, we don't really have jurisdiction, singular jurisdiction over these. The Commission on Aging, again, that one consists of 15 different agencies, as well as the Indian River Lagoon Council, which has 5 counties. So again, I want to point out just what a wonderful job staff has done on this stuff. And I think in the long haul, this may make things easier for staff. And certainly, I think it will be easier for us to make policy decisions. So the items that I have down here are ideas that not only came out of my office, but I've been listening up here to other members of the board and including that of the public. I outlined them there. I'll go into a little bit of detail, but again, I wanted to see where everyone was before I put this all in an ordinance. So the first one would be, and this came from D1, a limit of the meetings to quarterly. Now, there may be a few that may not fit into that that have been pointed out, but I think that that's probably for funding, for cost's sake, probably a good one. All meetings to be held at county government facilities, another good idea that I think came out of D1. All meetings be held during normal business hours to keep staff time down. Here's one that I put down that I think is pretty important, certainly for my stake. An annual written report for each board, and I have a sample that was included in the packet. It's just one page, and I think that this would not take any extra time out of staff, but it would A, create some uniformity, and B, we'd be able to see what was going on if they don't reach out to us directly. This may actually be a time-saving mechanism. This could be put on consent once a year. It just includes the meeting dates, accomplishments, recommendations, or things that we can do better as a board, as well as goals they may have for the upcoming year. Again, one page. And this is just a sample. It certainly can be changed. The more important ones, though, from my perspective, would be the limit on staff time and expenditures. Now, this mirrors what we did for some of the parks ones. This included an hourly cost as well as a CPI cap. Staff time be included with not only attending the meetings, but the research and the communications that they do. And more importantly, that all staff time requests must be made through the chair of the board. I think that is something that is extremely important. I don't like when staff is pulled in multiple directions by a board, and I think a point person, that being the chair of that advisory board, probably has the best idea of what's going on, as well as an attendance policy that was just brought up today. And finally, a sunset provision. I'm not advocating doing away with any of these things, but I think that needs to be reviewed, the efficacy of these boards, any period, 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, but right now they're indefinite, and I would like to see the board or future boards make determinations if that is the right way to go. Again, this would require a absolute ton of time because these are boards under different policies and ordinances and different jurisdictions. So I wanted to see where the board was on any of this stuff. If you guys are in general agreeance, I would like to work with staff as well as the county attorney's office to bring something back that we can look at and maybe put forward permission to advertise the next. So normally we have that first step, permission to advertise. I'm taking even a step before that to see if you guys are interested in doing this so we could put it down in writing for the next meeting and then permission to advertise and then go through the whole process. So I wanted to see where everyone was. Again, I will go over meeting frequency, meeting times, meeting location, a one-page annual report to the board, staff time request, attendance policy, and a sunset provision. And I want to make this as uniform as possible, but that's just the jumping off point. So I included a handout as well as to the boards that I was looking at, the number of meetings they had, the potential annual costs, and see where you guys were on this one.
All right, I have one card, so now that you've introduced the item, let's hear from the public. Ms. Janice? I think I read your name backwards the very first time. I apologize for that.
That's okay. I only wanted to ask Commissioner Tavia, when you go and do this draft again, I hope that you will not restrict all these volunteer advisory committees to daytime hours for the convenience of the staff. I mean, I think the county employees could get comp time, the people that are hourly maybe get time and a half, like if it's a quarterly board, because you don't want these boards to all turn into people who don't have a job. People who have a job and work, young millennials with families, they're not going to come here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Thank you.
At least I don't think they will.
Thank you. All right, I have no more cards on this item. I don't have one for J1. I have cards for other stuff. But.
And looking through the Sorrel audit concerns, in God we trust, and all others we audit, I have looked into and gotten records regarding the audit committee. And in the annual direction in the contract, it specifies the direction that they give RSM. So there's a couple of these boards that are non-mandatory that I believe are very important to transparency and accountability. The audit committee, the citizen budget review committee, investment committee, employee benefits advisory committee, for example, the housing finance, the ones to deal with monies. So I've been attending some of the committees, for example, the citizen budget review committee. Very interesting information coming out. So I would not like to see these important boards sunset, because I think they're very important to accountability and transparency to the public on how monies are being spent and having feedback. I know the board chair of that budget review made one recommendation in 1 year that saved the county over a period of time about $70 million. So the other recommendation I would make as you're looking to create some policy here is that for the P&Z board, you recently put alternates on it because you couldn't get quorum. And I would recommend, I know that the budget review meeting, budget review committee chair had made that recommendation here. And it seems like it would be a good thing to put on the board. So if somebody's not fulfilling their attendance record, then you have an alternate that's being trained. And it often takes time for them to get the experience that they need to contribute positively. So, and I do agree that they come up with recommendations annually. I think, that putting out product in the record requests I did for the audit committee, the direction to RSM for this Sorrel was the same year after year, the same 3 sentences. So obviously, that needs to be improved and addressed. So as you look to these boards, you can look to things like that and measurable deliverables. Thank you.
All right, that's all the cards I have. Commissioner Pritchett?
I guess Commissioner Tobias would like her. Commissioner Tobias, on these boards, and these are all non-mandatory, by the way, if people are wondering, he put all these together for us. And so what that means is we actually, I don't want to give you any ideas, sir, but we actually could do away with all the boards and just make all the decisions ourselves, and that would just be sad, because then you don't get citizen participation. And what I like about some of these boards, well, a lot of them, is they get together and they hash things out. They're just regular people that live in the community, and we get to read the minutes or tune in and watch it. And if we have to vote on some of these items, it gives us a little cheat sheet of knowing what some of the discussions were before it gets to us. It's just a good tool for us to gain more information so that we have the best information we have before we have to make decisions. So as we're going through these boards, Commissioner Tobias, thank you for bringing them so that we can make some of these decisions. I do think meeting frequency is probably something we need to look at. Now, some of them are meeting a lot, but the question is, do they need to? Again, I have, like some of these boards, I have a hard time filling. I can't get anybody to do the Art and Public Places Committee. So some of those I'd be interested in knowing if we have openings on the board, if those are hard ones that we're having fill, because they might not be so necessary to maybe make a formal board, but if people want to get together, they can get together and meet and have discussions. I don't know what we want to do with that. Some of these boards, they have to continue to meet 12 times, Board of Adjustments, some of those that make very strong decisions and they give us good information, and they actually make pretty important decisions. So I am open to all of these ideas, sir. I don't know how we would sunset them. Would you want them to just maybe come up every 4 years and we make a decision whether the boards continue? I would like to hear your thought on that. I think the annual report is genius. I think that helps a lot with our communication. Items, the locations, I think is good. You gave me credit for that, and I'll take it, but I'm not sure it was mine. Meeting times, as much as we can during the day, as Ms. Scott said, that could be a little bit of an issue for other people, but if they can't meet during the day, maybe we just cut the meetings back to quarterly so that we don't have that issue as much. But sir, thank you for bringing this. I really think it's a good thing that you're working on these. I appreciate it, and I bet you're a little surprised we're in so much agreement with you this time coming through. But I do want to state as well that advisory boards are just regular people that come together. They don't make financial decisions. They hash things out. We listen to the information and we make decisions. Therefore, it's not always important that they're doing those financial disclosures, because you're going to find a lot of people that don't want to get that much information out when they're coming in just having discussions. I would never do it on the library boards. There's just people getting together. Anybody who's making financial decisions that don't come to this board, and we can't look at those things, and it's required by law, we have to do those things. So I just wanted to state that, because I've heard that more than once. Any director that's working on these things, they have to do financial disclosures. So there's nothing here that's not being considered as far as protecting, especially us having to be responsible for this, of knowing that nobody's done anything that we're going to have to go back and figure out. Conflict of interest has to be done anyways. So I just wanted to state that while we're here right now. I had a little opportunity and I wrote a little note, so I wanted to mention that. But Commissioner Tobias, I support you on this, but I am interested on how you're going to manage the sunset provision.
Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a lot to consider, and I like some of your ideas and some I don't think are necessary, so I really need to dive into it a little bit more, but I think it's an interesting conversation to be had anyway.
Commissioner Tobias.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And it is a work product that certainly can be improved upon, but it's a heavy lift that not only would come out of my office, but would require a great deal of work by various liaisons for these boards, as well as the county attorney's office. And this certainly isn't a perfect work product, but again, that's why I brought it here. And the sunset, I don't expect folks to come here every 4 years, but if they issued a one-page saying why they need to continue, that would meet my criteria. But we could all put that. We certainly all could put that in the document. The issue is we have a number of boards, and thankfully we've gotten rid of some that haven't met for years and years and years and years. And had we had that in here, they wouldn't have given us a report, and we probably would have done away with some of the ones that we currently have done away with. So I think there's some good suggestions that have been made. I think there's probably even a better way to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and bring together a work product for you guys. I don't know that I'll be able to accomplish that within the next 2 weeks, but certainly by the meeting after that on those. And I ask that if you have other bright ideas or ways to handle things like attendance or meeting times, certainly bring those forward. I'm not married to any of these numbers. If you decide that 6 is better than 4, I'm more than willing to go with that number. We have some of these meeting double that are not necessary. And you mentioned one that meets 12 times a year, but you have trouble finding folks to fill those positions. So obviously we have some problems, but I appreciate the direction. I look forward to more input, and I will bring something back to the board so we can make a consideration before we move forward with an ordinance.
So with the sunset provision, does the board eliminate? Is that I'm not saying I'm against that, because obviously if people are on the board and they care about the board, they probably would let us know they want us to keep it, but.
Madam Chair, I was just concerned with some boards that hadn't met for years and years and years and years. And if we had some requirement that you had to put in one paragraph why you need to, it needs to go on, I'm more than willing to pull. That was just one of the ideas. If you want that pulled out, I'm more than willing to pull out that sunset provision. There are far more in there that are, I think, better for the public, certainly better for us. I just think that when government creates a program and we don't put any sunset on it, it will continue, as we have a number of these boards, again, that have not met for 8, 10, 12
Oh,
years.
no, I get it. But there's a few in here that I see value to.
Yeah, but if you want to pull it out, I have no problem doing
Maybe
that.
just a requirement that the board review it every 4 years, and that way it comes back to whatever future county commission.
Along that same line, you could just simply say that every whatever X amount of time, 4 years, 6 years, whatever, the board has to reaffirm their purpose and what they're doing and why they should continue. And then the Board of County Commissioners will make the decision at that time.
But I like
It's
your
simple.
list of provisions in there, and I think we need a little bit of tightening up on that. So I
Okay.
agree with you on that. I'm interested to see what you bring back. Now, I know I believe it's the next item that you're going to move into that one.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, are we done talking about item J1?
I have direction, Madam Chair, so thank you.
Okay. Item J2, so I guess it's introduced because I have 2 cards.
Okay, I'll go ahead with this. This is only homework. First of all, I want to thank the boards for all their help putting this stuff together, and I want to also thank this board. The purpose of this item is just to get a sense of where the board stands regarding certain non-mandatory advisory boards. The homework worksheet that I've handed out is to save the board as well as the public's time. All I'm looking at is the remaining boards, the non-mandatory boards, to see if you have any ideas on whether or not we need to look forward to doing away or just potentially talking about doing away with any of these boards. If you believe that we need to keep these boards, I'd ask that you, in the recommended section, just bring back to this next meeting that you think that these boards need to continue, and I will respect that. And if there are 2 of you that believe they need to be kept, I clearly would not have the votes, and I don't ever need to bring these up again. Let me be very clear. I am extremely, extremely, extremely thankful not only to the staff contacts, but also this board. We've done away with 10 and a half boards. I only have 2 more that I'll be discussing at the next meeting. That would be the Emergency Managed Service Review Committee and the Emergency Managed Service Advisory Committee. But short of that, if the board decides that they would like to keep all of these, I don't plan to ever bring it up again. All I'm just asking is to save the board's time. If you return this to me, it would be a public record. And again, I have A or B down there. If you would like to keep them, just put A. And if you guys all return A, then I won't mention it again. So I think, again, I want to thank the staff for all their hard work on this. And I want to thank you guys for allowing us to consolidate some boards, as well as doing away with some boards. That's, I haven't done away with all of them, but we've done away with double digits, and I think that's quite an accomplishment, and I greatly appreciate everyone's work on that. So all I'm asking is that you bring this back, and we'll go from there.
All right, Janice Scott, and after Janice, Sandra Sullivan.
Sorry for than in J2, but can I just ask, non-mandatory, it's almost like a positive negative. The Board of Adjustment, isn't that a statutory requirement that the county has? How is that non-mandatory? Okay, so you don't have to answer that right now. But I haven't heard any comment, nor did I read in the parts that I could read, about county employees serving on these boards. And I think that's a really important thing. I think that's sort of the fly in the ointment today about some of the public comments that have been made especially having to do with financial disclosure and conflict of interest. So I really hope that that will be looked at as well. Thank you.
Ms. Sullivan? Ms. Scott, I think you were thinking Value Adjustment Board as far as what's statutorily required. Value Adjustment Board, correct, Abby? That's the one that's statutorily required?
So the Value Adjustment Board is different than the Board of Adjustment.
Yeah. When you reference the Board of Adjustment, I think maybe you were confusing the Value Adjustment Board. That's the one that's statutorily required. Okay, all right. Moving on. Commissioner Tobias?
That's it, Madam Chair. Again, thank you for all of you guys taking the time. I've included the staff contacts so you can reach out and discuss individually with these folks their opinions on it. And again, if I get back that two of you would like to keep these, I'm not going to bring it up again, and we can move on to other things. I'm just trying to save time than bring each one up individually and waste staff's time any more than it's already being wasted.
So do you plan on coming back with a master list? Is that the intention?
Madam Chair, I just hope that the rest of the board would bring that sheet back to us at the next meeting. Again, totally being in sunshine.
Okay.
I'll tally it, and I mean, there's only 4 of us now, and if I see that there's strong sentiment to keep it all, then I'll say there's strong sentiment, and it'll be dead at that point, with the exception of the 2 that I was going to bring up today, but decided to go in this direction first.
Okay. All right, moving on to item J3. Who's going to handle that one?
Oh, Commissioner Zonka, Madam Chair, I have the AO47. I had Miss Abby send it out to us again, and with just a couple things that I was thinking about of tweaking. A couple of ideas, and I know that this is going to be just a discussion. And so I thought there were some things we might need to look at. One of the things, and it's been concerning me over the past few meetings, I realized that what commission offices charge for public records can be like what I consider extremely high, or some of us send them all out at one time. So if you look on page 4, I'm thinking if we could come together with some consensus of what would be a maximum that a commissioner would charge for public records. I think, wasn't one of the high numbers was $50 an hour?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, so I think it's a little high myself. Again, anything I can throw out for free, if I can just do it with request, I'll do it. But I think we need to consider something that's a little bit more appropriate. I had thrown out to Ms. Jordan, maybe we could take like a consolidation of all of our staff and then use that. And she said, well, actually, we need to stick to something that's a little more towards our time and benefits. So I don't think we should base that on, I just think we should find a lower limit. I don't think anybody would complain about that. So I was thinking maybe we would do a maximum of $30 an hour for us so that we don't have those high numbers out there. And I think that would be a little bit more appropriate for the public. Again, you know, with my office, I know you guys do the same thing. If there's something real simple, we try to do everything electronically anyway, so it's already in the county system. So if anybody asks for anything, it's usually pretty easy, just sending the email record straight across. So we're typically trying to do that as best as we can. And another thing I wanted to mention is I guess it's election season, I don't know, but the public records are greatly increasing. No big deal. Everybody should get to ask for public records and get those. But what I did is I gave you guys a little tally sheet here. And I got, for February, we had 234 public records, which is higher, March 264. And again, anybody can request public records, but the staff time that's needed for the legal department now, it's really getting expensive. I think Ms. Nadia has to vote all her time for public records. But the thing that caught my attention is, so I asked the question, well, how many individuals are asking for more than one public record a month? Let's just do that. and came back with 20 in February and 23 in March. So I thought, well, okay, that's not too much. So I said, well, what are the numbers of them? Almost everybody in a month will ask for 2 or 3 public records. Again, that's just not much of a question for me. But then there was 2 on there that in February, one person had asked for 20 and another person asked for 16. And in the following month, it was 41 and 24. And when you start looking at these public records and they're all really on the same theme, I don't know that we didn't take one large public record and just chop them up into like 40 pieces, because we give the first 15 minutes free for public records. So I'm thinking if someone's asking for one really big public record and they're divided it up like that, we probably should use it as a consolidated public record. Not that they can't do it, but the staff time on this is getting really expensive. And then I think it would help cover these costs. Again, we're allowed to charge or not charge, and we don't typically. But I think if you have a large consolidated amount, that we need to look at that a little bit differently, just so that we're able to cover these costs, because it's going to get expensive and everybody's going to have to pay for these. And it's really substance over form. This is kind of what's happening. So I wanted to throw out those ideas with you guys. Again, this is an AO. The manager can do all this on his own, but I don't want him taking the hit on this, because it's not that we're not trying to get information to the community. We're trying to make it appropriate with cost when people are asking for 41 public records. And 23 of them are on like Sorrel emails. That's really a consolidated one. And they probably should get the first 15 minutes on that free. Then they should have to pay those other costs. And another item that's happening is someone's asking for a large number of public records. Staff is spending the time on that. They're not picking them up and paying for them, and then they're asking for more. And I think all the other entities that I've asked other governments, people have to pay for that one before they're allowed to put in another one. This just kind of stops a little bit of abuse of it, and it allows people to get public records, and it helps the legal staff not to keep hiring extra lawyers to try to take care of this. So this is what I worked on with you guys, and so this is my first attempt at giving y'all information, and so looking forward to the conversation. I gave you some things here, guys. I didn't mention people's names on purpose, so there you have it.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I like it.
I think it'll actually save people some money in the long run if it's cheaper. Because what can I ask? Who's charging $50 an hour?
That was a commissioner's rate at that time, so it was our prior commissioner in D2.
Okay, because I know it was set up here that wasn't the case, but did we look into this? Did we verify that?
I understand it was, yes, at his rate. I believe it was at $50-something an hour, but I can double check if you want the exact amount.
No, I mean, I'm fine with that. I just think that that's outrageous, but all right.
Learning that we kind of set policy on things and we catch them, so.
Right. No one should be charging $50 an hour for public records. But I think it probably needs to be uniform regardless if it's from our office, if it's from your office, or if it's from staff's office. I think it should be
I agree.
as cheap as possible. But I know that we've been hit a lot more lately with requests. Is there, something maybe we could look into? And I think I asked you this, can we hire somebody that can manage that? Because if we're taking away a lot of staff time, I worry about us getting things done.
Yes, so I have actually moved Nadia to that position full-time at this point, and we're working to start to do better coordination in that area so she can dedicate all her time to it.
All right, so I just realized I had all these cards. All right, Rick Heffelfinger, and then Janice Scott.
Rick Heffelfinger, 2000 Juniper Drive, Cocoa, Florida, 32926. I'm shocked. My commissioner, I asked you Friday, do you have any thoughts so I could churn on this and maybe help you out? Nothing. We have a Legistar, right? The Legistar? What do we use the Legistar for, people? We pay for it as taxpayers. We can share information. Commissioner Tobia puts wonderful reports up there, does the analysis. You guys come to the meetings. That crap's been up there how long, man? Friday? When the agenda came out? Do you read any of that? You're supposed to come to these meetings and talk about stuff. We could have solved his little issue right today. I don't know. You don't read it? I asked for information. I sent an email. Said, hey, Commissioner, please, I'd like to grind this stuff. I'm interested. Did I get anything? No. Nothing. Not even a response. Now, I did get one thing. I got a clean copy of AO 47 because I couldn't find it on the web. And your staff sent that to me, and I thanked her for that rapid response. And I said, hey, I'd like to get some. You're not going to share that with me? Do I have to do a public records request? Is it going to take more than 15 minutes? I don't understand. You worry about transparency? I asked you for that. I don't know what else to do. My God, that's a minimum charge. Do you know what your own policy says about the cost? The cheapest cost possible. I don't know what you pay staff, but if somebody can run over to the file cabinet and grab something or drop an electronic file in an email, how freaking hard is that? The last time I did one of these, and I brought it up earlier, I was told that it was going to cost $41. So I said, this isn't going to stop me. I know what the game they're playing, I think. Right? This question whether they're sinister. So I sent the check, got back the PowerPoint that was showed during this meeting, and I got a memo that was sent by Commissioner Lober that he already asked to be part of the record. You guys charged me for that. And then I was told you couldn't find any of the others. These were documents that you can go and say, they were passed around from you guys at these meetings. And I was told that they didn't exist. Tried 3 times. That's naughty fold. Do you realize that she's already your public records coordinator? You're going to hire somebody? What does she spend on it? 5 minutes, 15 minutes? This is ridiculous. You guys are swimming in staff, as far as I know. Look who goes to the Sorrel meetings. There's a lot of staff. I understand why your costs are high. Why don't you hire a flunky at, hey, $15 an hour? That's a good living wage these days. You charging us $30, $50, $200 for the attorney if she has to put in 5 hours. Wow. This stuff is product. I paid for it. They all paid for it. Jesus.
Yes, Commissioner Pritchett.
I just want to jump in. Mr. Heffelfinger, what's in my head is not public record, and until I decide what I'm going to do, I'm not going to call you up and get in a discussion with you of what's going on in my head. This is a discussion here. Nobody's talked about it. It's being done first time in public. Nobody knows what's going on. We're doing it in front of the public. There's not a better forum than hearing what's in my head with the first 4 commissioners hearing it at the same time. So there was no public record. I had her send that to you and tell you it was going to be discussed. That's all I had, and other than if I'm going to make stuff up, but I'm not running what's in my head through with you until I've determined what's the best thing to do in a discussion. I'm not getting a conversation with you, but that was really, really ridiculous.
Ms. Sullivan?
Sandra Sullivan, South Patrick Shores. So you said on public record here that the attorney sent out the document that you have all in front of you, but it wasn't loaded up to Legistar to where we could see. I did a public records request for AO 47 that you're discussing today that we can't see that are in the audience. Transparency and accountability is the core function of good government. Brevard Commission should be strengthening, not weakening, transparency. If you have nothing to hide, you hide nothing. Transparency is government's obligation to share information with citizens that is needed to hold officials accountable for the conduct of the people's business. Despite sunshine law and much pro-transparency rhetoric, information requests are being ignored, given the bureaucratic slow roll, and discouraged by inflated price tags for staff time. It is thus profoundly disappointing to see this commission discussing action with AO 47 to make records requests even more difficult and more expensive to obtain. What are you hiding? We, the people of Brevard, demand that Brevard County has a duty to affirmatively disclose certain information in a timely manner, to share information requested appropriate so that students may hold their elected officials accountable. Instead of increasing the costs on records requests and making it more difficult to get transparency, we the people request that you strengthen public records with exemptions for nonprofits, media, and committee members. I believe the county has violated state statute Sunshine Public Law now on several occasions. One, omitting records with public records requests, which I obtained from other sources. This has happened now 3 times. The most recent example is with the keyword EBIAC. What are you hiding? Slow rolling documents, number 2. I have some records requests that are just ignored or remain unfulfilled. What are you hiding? Number 3, highest cost director instead of lowest paid staff for public records requests invoices. I have some records at $95 an hour for simple requests that IT and public records could fulfill. What are you hiding? Number 4, recently D1 Commissioner expressed intent at the county budget meeting to obstruct providing records until after the commission voted on the Save the Lagoon 2022 plan. What are you hiding? The unintended consequence of the January 22, 2020 changes to AO47 is now records get reviewed by a department, and that department can remove records that they don't want the public to see. Thank you.
Ronaldez?
Holy cannoli. I didn't expect to hear all that. Come on, you guys got to laugh a little bit. I find it interesting that, and maybe I don't understand the rules, for F5, we were told to make comments, and on this, before anything was discussed, and it was tabled, but yet on this item, the commission discussed things, and then citizens got to put in some input. What is going on here? Brother, what is going on? Document requests. And I understand that somebody's going to be in charge of this, but we, the taxpayers, realistically shouldn't pay anything for this. We really shouldn't. But there's something going on here that needs to be adjusted. We got to pay through our millage rate somehow or in the budget to receive these documents for free. But I don't see an analysis of what the costs are every year over year for document requests. And I think that needs to be looked at carefully. And I know the silly season is approaching. That's when documents may get further scrutiny amongst all. But citizens have a chance should have a chance to see this. It's like the county has an attorney that helps you guys out. But when I want something and I got to do something, I pay the taxes, we all pay our taxes, I got to hire an attorney. Now, when we think about it, wait a second, you're elected officials, we elected you. If we feel wronged, we got to hire an attorney. So I'm going to propose right now in the budget that citizens should have citizens representation through an attorney to get these documents that represents us, Citizens Council. If we don't want to get this straightened out with the document requests, let's work together, man.
All right, that's all the cards I have on this. Commissioner Tobias?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this was done very well, and I'll tell you what, I think 99% of people, in fact, most of the people that got up here and spoke, will greatly benefit from this change. Unfortunately, I'll tell you what, I'm not embarrassed of the vote I made, but it probably wasn't a good one to increase the public record request. I know it came from another commissioner who may not be up here anymore. I did not know we were charging that amount. I know that certainly has never even gotten close coming out of my office. It's something that I probably, and the rest of us probably, should have looked over to make sure that abuse was not happening. To anyone that was hit with that, I greatly apologize. This is the first I'm hearing of it, and I think, you know, you're doing a very good job by the 99.9% of people who put in, you know, a public request or two. Now, yes, there are some folks that, you know, quite clearly this will not be beneficial to, but here's the problem. When we have staff members that are getting documents for one person, they're not helping the other 600,000+ people out there. And these are very, very instrumental people in government, and I think that this will help out, again, 99% of the people that file public record requests and 99.999% of people in Brevard County. Ironically, when I look at what was handed out by your office, I look at the changes that were made by a former commissioner to infringe upon one individual. I see that individual filed 2 public record requests, and then in February, and it looks like none in March. And now I see other individuals are asking 10 times that amount, which is absolutely ridiculous. So I honestly believe that you've done something that is, I wish I would have come up with many of these ideas. I think this will be a clear directive to staff, and I also like the idea that even though this is administrative order, that we don't place any of the blame on the county manager and the county attorney. I think that it belongs on our shoulders. So let me be very clear. I would go further with this if we legally could, because I do not like seeing some folks taking advantage of the system. It is absolutely insane. If you get up and you say, what are you hiding, what are you hiding, what are you hiding, what are you hiding, over and over and over again, that doesn't mean, I mean, the last time we got a suggestion, you know, Kendall Towing was run by Kendall Moore, and I'll tell you what, I was so stupid, I actually looked to see if that was true. And I spent 5 minutes. Of course, it's just, you know, they just have the same name. There is no association, none whatsoever. And I'd like to say even what they say, a broken clock is right twice a day. I don't think we're at twice a day. I don't think we're twice in the history. I feel bad for staff, and I'm sorry. I'll say it. You know, good for D1 for not saying this, but you know, I'll say it. I mean, it's a public record. Sandra Sullivan right here. I mean, the amount of public records is ridiculous here. And the fact that if you're really interested in this stuff, pay for it and pick it up. Don't, you know, if a kid asks for more food and you give them more food and then they don't eat it and they ask for more food, you'd be stupid to give them more food. And over and over and over again. And Susan Hodgers, you're more than welcome to this stuff. You absolutely are, but please pick up the stuff before you continue on with this stuff. And these folks are making public records at which they're more than welcome to. They're absolutely more than welcome to. Please don't do it to impede on staff that is working really hard for the benefit of the county. And if you are going to make the request, please follow through and pick it up, because bring us up some your wild conspiracy theories. You know, let's actually have some proof of it, okay? Because there's been absolutely no proof, zero proof. Tell us where someone directly benefited. And yes, we'll take it. We'll take it into consideration. I think we all think that's extremely serious, and I think that's indicative that we have an audit right now going on with all our offices. We are more than willing to look at this stuff when it's required, when there's a seed of truth. But getting up here and saying, "What are you hiding? What are you hiding? What are you hiding?" doesn't benefit. I don't think it benefits you. It just makes you look like a conspiracy theorist. And when you come with absolutely no constructive ideas or anything that we are hiding, I don't know what the end result is. I honestly don't know what the end result is, other than wasting folks' his time. Because if that's what you're trying to do, you're actually winning. You're succeeding when it comes to that. And I think that this has done a pretty darn good job that will stop the abuse, because that's what it is. It's absolute abuse. And you sit there and you laugh, but it's not abuse on us. It's abuse on the rest of the taxpayers that are having to put aside the important county business and to deal with an issue here that you're not even following through to paying for what you're asking. So either bring your conspiracy theories forward and point out what we actually need to fix, because I'll tell you what, if you bring forward some good ideas, I'm more than willing to look into them. And again, I think the example up here has been set when we have an audit going on in all of our offices. All of our offices. I sat down for more than a couple hours and answered as many questions as were asked, as did my staff. And if more are required, I'd be more than willing to do that. So we don't have anything, we have absolutely nothing to hide. And, but please, again, it's two individuals. I mean, the Florida Today had 3. So these two individuals had more than 10 times the largest news source than Brevard County combined. It's a little bit ridiculous, and I appreciate the effort. I like the moxie, but it's coming at the detriment of the rest of the county. And if you really do care about this stuff, I hope you do, but if you really do, cut out the antics and actually try to effectuate some sort of change, because I think all of us up here want that. But this is absolute, utter, and total abuse what's going on here, and I appreciate that we wouldn't have to do this, but for the rest of the 99% out here, you're going to get lower costs when you ask for requests, and I think that's a darn good thing.
I think that was well stated. This is going to come back, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm glad you took the uncomfortable task of addressing, the abuses, and that was what the former commissioner brought up, and that's sort of why he was charging apparently $50 an hour before he left. But, with easy records, our office has always given them up without any cost or trouble. We just send you forward emails along, whatever, if that's what you ask for. But if you even look at some of the natures of these requests, they're personnel files, they're weird things, or they're so vague that staff has to spend time trying to decipher, is this a request? Because there's 15 things along with some built-in accusations. So, unfortunately, there's a tremendous responsibility on us, to protect and exempt info before it's accidentally released. We don't set the rules, the state does. So as far as that goes, and usually it's with good purpose, we'd put the whole damn government online if we could. Believe me, it would make my life a lot easier. But when you ask staff to spend hours and hours of time going through these records, it's not her that suffers or him that suffers in that department. It's the rest of the taxpayers, because they're not doing work for them. So I'd be upset for those people that abuse it. When you're talking between two people, you have 65 public records requests, and it's not, oh, I need the email between John and Sally for the past 12 months. That's a 5-minute ask. It's, it's 2 paragraphs of, okay, what exactly do you need? Because we want to make sure that we follow through with the request. So for the average person that wants, a commissioner's email for the last 2 years, 3 years, or you want to look at some communication between, you're going to save a boatload of money, because I think that this is actually a really great thing for the average person, and not the person who gets up here and makes all sorts of accusations. If you say it over and over and over again, it doesn't make it true. It just doesn't. So if anyone in the audience or anybody that gets up at this podium and wastes 3 minutes of our time making baseless accusations, please, by God, file an ethics complaint, because if everybody that worked for the county and everybody on this board was so corrupt, then none of us should be here. So please, file an ethics complaint. They'll investigate it. They have a whole team of investigators, people with actual backgrounds that do this stuff, and they can look into it, That's what I would recommend that you do, because I know I wouldn't want to serve with a bunch of corrupt individuals, and I wouldn't want a bunch of corrupt individuals working for this county. So if you suspect something, please, by God, set it up for an investigation. That's all I'll say about it. I think we've wasted so much damn time on this. It's frustrating to me. But I look forward to the rest of the population and the average folk who just want some good information to saving some money. That's what I look forward to. So thanks for bringing this back, Commissioner Pritchett.
Say one more thing.
Sure can.
I just wanted to mention the whole intent of this is to get as much information to the public as best as we can for the largest amount of public. And that's why I think if we get a lower cost on what we're doing in our offices, I think that's going to be a real benefit. Because one of the requests that came back, I couldn't believe the amount of money the guy was looking at trying to get information from one of us. So I think that's a good thing. And I do want to note that, okay, so like we're taking a large amount of public comments. Let's just say I did it, and it's even more than a fifth of the public comments. So, if you're looking at, let's say someone in her office, let's say they're making $1,000 a week, that's $1,000 a month of taxpayer funds going for a lot of questions that, again, you're allowed to do it, but you're going to have to start covering some of these costs, because it is not free getting information and having them do all your research for you. That's really what it's basically coming down to, is getting county staff to kind of put together your research. Not that you can't have it, but everybody's got to pay for people's time. So that's what we got to do. And the ones like Florida Day, you guys are awesome. You don't get that many, and when you call up with questions, it's easy to give you all answers. So, and let me also throw out to you, if you've got questions, call your commissioner, and let's see if we can help you get some of the answers before you go into county staff. You did call, and I responded to you as quick as I could. I did not have the information you wanted. I wasn't ready today to put it public. So that's.
They got copies of it today.
Don't talk back, sir. We passed it down, and you guys are going to have it as we move forward. But this is a discussion today. We're not voting. So I wanted everybody to hear everything that we're discussing today, all for the first time together, and that's a good thing. But I think Commissioner Tabaya really narrowed it in, is trying to get all, you have 234 people wanting public records. We should be able to get them theirs without someone getting a whole fifth of everybody's monthly time out of it. Not that they can't, but if we have to hire more staff, someone needs to pay for it. And I don't think it should be every taxpayer. So I think it has been abused. If they want it and they pay for it, I'm all happy for that. So that's a good thing. So thank you guys, and spend some time thinking about it. And again, I'm glad we're doing this so we're not putting the pressure on staff. So I think it's a good thing to look at. And thank you guys for listening.
Was it November yet?
It's just mean. It's mean season.
All right. Moving on to public comments. Dr. W. Wanda Jones.
hate it when I rewrite things. Okay. Okay, thank you. Do I need to just say my name?
Yeah, we can't hear you. I'm sorry.
It's okay. That doggone virus. What is the procedure? Do I just say my name or?
Yeah, just say your name, please.
Okay, all right.
And maybe where you're from?
Okay. My name is Dr. Wanda Jones. I'm from Orlando. I am a marine mammal biologist, and I conducted a study on marine mammal feeding preferences. I received my master's and PhD at the University of Florida, and I've conducted scientific research looking at manatees, feeding preferences, and other marine mammals while working for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and NOAA's National Marine Fisheries Service. Manatees and seagrasses have co-evolved together for millions of years and have a codependent relationship. The IRL had a resident population estimated by an expert to be approximately 1,100. Approximately 700 plus manatees died last year and this year and are still dying of starvation. I would like to address misinformation publicly stated by Commissioner Smith on March 22nd. He stated too many manatees are eating a small amount of seagrass. First, there is virtually no seagrass in the IRL according to experts and my own personal observations. Scientific studies have concluded that a seagrass meadow size of less than 1 hectare can sustain intense seasonal grazing by manatees. A collaborative study between USGS and Kennedy Space Center and NOAA showed that manatee grazing can help maintain more diverse mixed species seagrass meadows. Also, no matter whether manatees graze the top of the grass or pull the whole plant out, and this is based on his comment in which he stated that unlike cows, manatees pull up the whole entire seagrass plant, therefore the plant can't grow back. And this would, he implies that that statement implies that the seagrass would no longer grow. No matter whether manatees graze just the top of the grass or pull up the whole plant, studies have concluded that seagrass meadows benefit. Studies have shown that whether manatees eat the top of the grass or pull up the whole plant is the result of the substrate in which the seagrass is growing, not the manatee. Weak substrate results in the entire plant being pulled up. Strong substrate allows the manatee to graze just the upper portion of the grass, leaving the roots of the substrate. Periods of intense grazing can modify the relative species composition without completely destroying the seagrass meadow. Despite the repeated annual grazing pressure of hundreds of manatees feeding at one of the study sites where manatees were observed for years, the seagrass was never removed to a degree such that it would not recover, and this site was a highly favored site by manatees, according to the researchers. The bottom line is that the manatees help seagrass grow. They have a codependent relationship because the two species have evolved together for millions of years, and they are not a problem to seagrass and actually appear to be a necessary component needed to help seagrass species remain healthy. This is a manatee, DeSoto, that starved to death, and this is the face of immense suffering several hours before he died. If manatees could scream, I sincerely believe this manatee would have been screaming in agony. I have never seen a manatee contort its face, its lips, and its mouth in this manner. Humans had the opportunity to witness the agonizing suffering that a starving manatee who hadn't eaten in several months experienced. There were hundreds that suffered the same agony, and they died alone with nobody to witness it. DeSoto and none of the other manatees had to die. If the FWC biologists, can I finish? I only have like less than 1 minute.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
You got to wrap it up quick.
If the FWC biologists had been allowed to feed the manatees hydrilla water hyacinth instead of lettuce this past winter, a few manatees would have died. Hydrilla and water hyacinth are much healthier than lettuce. Lettuce is primarily water, no nutrients, and no fat. The IRL is too brackish for hydrilla and water hyacinth to propagate. In fact, it already grows in freshwater creeks that drain into the lagoon all the time, but because they cannot grow in brackish water, hyacinth and hydrilla have never grown in the IRL. Manatees love it and would eat any that they encountered anyway. Please support any efforts that the FWC makes or desires to make to feed the resident manatees that live here throughout the year, hydrilla and water hyacinth, and this year and in years to come until the IRL is no longer a sewage dump, and only after the sewage is halted will seagrass be able to be replanted and thrive.
Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break based on a request, so back in 5-7 minutes. order, please. All right, moving on, Katrina Shaddix.
Thank you. Katrina Shaddix, Executive Director of Bear Warriors United. I am a third-generation Floridian, and I've been visiting Playland Beach since the early 70s when it still had a little snack bar there. I've also been hiking and exploring the Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge for decades, and I've been recreating on the Indian River Lagoon for so long that I remember the crystal clear water and the expansive, massive meadows of emerald green seagrass as far as the eye could see. But now that's all gone. The NIRL is a dead zone, a collapsed ecosystem that can no longer sustain life or generate ecotourism dollars. And in a quote from a bio in an article on Commissioner Smith, he said, referring to the Delaware River in New Jersey, "This is where I developed my deep love of nature and for being in and on the water of the river I loved." And if you read about the Delaware River, it has been polluted for a couple decades. So hopefully you didn't bring down that polluted mindset down here from New Jersey. You know how us natives...
I didn't bring DuPonts with me.
Good. That's good to know. All right, some quotes from the last meeting. And just a warning, I'm going to pick on you for what you said.
One big boy.
Okay. First one, you said, nobody's addressing that we have too many manatees eating such small amounts of seagrass. And that's right. That's because we don't have too many manatees. The last count in 2017, we only had 7,520 manatees compared to 22 million people. Comparing those numbers, it's clear to see that we have too many people, not too many manatees. The next thing you said, they're eating themselves out of house and home, and actually that's incorrect. What is correct is we have polluted them out of house and home. And the main source of pollution is in the NIRL is human-derived sewage, which never could have happened without the Brevard County Commission taking developer donations, then voting to approve an upzoning sprawl development request for those same developers, which permitted the developers to commit countless crimes against nature, involving massive deforestation, the filling in of wetlands, and the catastrophic degradation of our waters, hence the pollution and ecosystem collapse of Brevard County's part of the Indian River Lagoon. Now, the next thing you recommended was culling manatees like deer and bear because there were more than the habitat can support. But we can't destroy habitat and then claim there's too many for that habitat to support. Culling happens when prime habitat has remained the same while the population has increased. And the opposite has happened here. Habitat has been decimated and the population has decreased dramatically. So dramatically that a federal designated unusual mortality event was declared last year and is still happening to the point that we are witnessing a local extinction event in real time. Cull the manatees? You've already done a thorough job of that yourselves. Over 700. 700 in just Brevard County starved to death. So we don't need to do a call. I have so much more to say.
Thank you. I know, I appreciate it, but we have other cards. And
okay.
Katie Delaney. And after Katie, Stell Bailey.
Hi, I'm Katie Delaney. I've never been to a county commission meeting. This is my first time.
Sorry.
So I've been going to school board meetings for the past year. I've been to every school board meeting and school board workshop since March of last year. And I am here to ask you guys to, I don't know if you have this authority, but to look into their finances. We need a forensic audit of the finances of BPS. They just announced to us that they have a debt consolidation loan of $512 million. That money, to be fair, is from 2008 till now. That's $512 million of our tax dollars that's debt. That's not counting their yearly budget that they're getting every year. Now they are asking for a millage, and it's on their agenda that they just dropped today for next school board meeting. They've already mismanaged hundreds of millions of our tax dollars already, and they have shown that they are not to be trusted with 1 cent of our dollars anymore. And they can't pay our teachers, they can't pay our bus drivers, our schools are falling apart, and where's all the money going? They're getting hundreds of millions of dollars every year, and we're not seeing where that money is going, and our kids can't read. Our kids can't do math. 50% across the board of our students in BPS are below grade level in math. And so I'm here as a last-ditch effort. I've contacted legislature. I've contacted, Governor DeSantis. I've contacted every government official I can think of except for you guys. And I'm practically begging for a forensic audit. We need to know where our money is going, especially before they raise our property taxes here. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And if anybody has any questions about any of that, please feel free to ask if you're not aware of that stuff.
Still, Bailey?
I just want to point out, this is my truck in this picture. Anyway. All right, my name is Stell Bailey, and I'm from Cocoa, Florida. Oversimplifying a solution to our complex water quality issues by blaming manatees for decades of horrible policies, lack of environmental protection and enforcement, sewage spills, chemical-saturated lawns, growth with septic tanks, and humans negatively impacting our ecosystem is exceptionally harmful to clean water efforts. In the last 14 months, that's why my truck is there, I have witnessed the manatees' lack of survival in the Indian River Lagoon and significant loss of their habitat, evidence of the beginning of extinction. Our agencies claim to be rescuing the manatees, but on a nearly daily basis, I see a recovery mission of them collecting the bodies, initially piled on an island on the lagoon, and now being tied to docks across Brevard County, cranked into trailers, and stacked at a landfill. A dozen out of nearly 1,500 manatees have been rescued here on the East Coast. Instead of being forthright with our communities, our agencies put on a pathetic lettuce show, wasting taxpayers' money on public relations. Human interference has caused manatees to be malnourished, sick, and suffering lengthy, painful deaths. Additionally, thermal pollution from the Port St. John power plant changes oxygen levels in the water. We've been testing them throughout the year, can cause suffocation to plants and feed harmful algae. The Cape Canaveral power plant has $4.7 million of heating equipment, and their plant is a refuge for manatees during the winter. This makes manatees dependent on industrial plants and disrupts their natural migration patterns. The Clean Water Act passed in 1972 brought restrictions on thermal pollution, but officials cut a deal with FPL, allowing their plant to keep pushing out hot water to reduce cold-related mortality in manatees. The industry was able to get good PR and save billions of dollars this way. They also lobbied to allow the cost to be passed on to customers through our bills. The expense of pollution is significantly impacting us. Our communities ultimately pay for the cleanup of waterways and to protect aquatic species. 32 years ago, the EPA designated the IRL as an estuary of national significance in 1990 to protect and restore our water. The decline of the seagrass has been well documented since the 1940s, and it's algae blooms that killed the seagrass in the first place. An ignorant response to this problem is wanting to hunt the manatees rather than asking why we altered their habitat and why the lagoon wasn't protected for the past 3 decades, impacting seagrass, fisheries, shorebirds, and more. Roughly half of the native species that once lived in the lagoon are gone. As a board member of the National Estuary Program, Commissioner Smith, I ask that you send a letter to the government and ask them to revisit the requirements for thermal pollution and assess its impacts on our ecosystem. I also ask that the Commission meet with Fight for Zero to discuss numerous ways we can educate communities on the balance of our ecosystem, water quality, and how to reduce the impacts of pollution. One more sentence. Community participation is the most powerful tool for environmental conservation. Thank you.
As long as we're all pulling in the same direction.
Exactly, and that's why I'm willing to meet with each one of you if you want to talk about education, because community engagement is something that I specialize in. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
CJ Saturday. And after CJ, Robert Kowalski.
Hey, y'all. Happy Tuesday.
On January 22nd, 2020, Brevard County Sheriff proudly accepted a resolution recognizing the U.S. Constitution as the cornerstone of our government. And Ms. Zonka, you agreed. And then on January 31st, 2020, Brevard County Commissioners took an oath to unprecedented vote to uphold the U.S. Constitution. Mr. Tobiah, you did a wonderful speech about how you guys are hypocrites. If we're going to ban panhandling, then politicians need to be banned, charity organizations, everybody, because it's protected speech. And either you're for the Constitution or you're not. Thank you.
All right, Robert Kumklowski.
Robert Kumkowski, 7667 North Wickham Road, Melbourne, Florida, 32940, apartment 724. All right, so I'm talking about Citizen Advisory Committee appointments again in my candidate status, making me ineligible for District 4's appointee to their TPO Advisory Board. Section 5.6, Public Participation and Inclusion, per our Home Rule, Brevard County Home Rule Charter. This brings back to the locality. All citizens and taxpayers are entitled to have access to their elected officials to present their grievances to the county government and to participate in county government in an effort to guide the future of the community. When making appointments of the individual citizens who desire to participate in government to any decision, making regulatory advisory board committee, including the Charter Review Commission, the Board of County Commissions shall make appointments based on competence, expertise, or merit of the prospective appointee. When appointments to all of the county's boards and committees are taken as a whole, the appointments should include citizens from all segments of society in Brevard County, reflecting differing viewpoints, gender, life experiences, professions, races, and ethnic backgrounds of Brevard County society in an effort to provide balance with regard to race, gender, or ethnic background. So I want to ask why my candidacy makes me ineligible for a Citizen Advisory Committee per our Home Rule Charter. That holds no bearing. I think it's actually great that I wanted to run just like each and every one of you wanted to run for where you're sitting at now, and I find that to be an honor to serve Brevard County if elected for Brevard County Commission District 4. And I didn't want to make my candidacy known up here, but it seems like I have to because I can't be appointed to a board that I told I would be appointed to after about 6 months of following up with the legislative aides. So I have email correspondence saying that, yeah, you talked to Commissioner Smith, see if you can get on the board. I sat right here, shook his hand and talked to him and said, hi, I'm a candidate, and I believe that everybody from the architect to the engineer, from the landscaper to the builder should have a right on those boards because I might be a landscaper, but I want to be on the transportation planning organization to talk about how that might impact somebody, or the architect, or the builder. Just because just because I'm not a professional or I have a doctorate, I do not have a doctorate, doesn't mean I can't sit on a board and help the county in the direction as a citizen. I believe that that makes us all inclusive, not just the doctors, not just the professionals. That makes it exclusive. So I'll leave off with this too. There was a lady back there that said that she's in a rough time right now. How is she supposed to access public records? Because if you're impoverished, say you make $14,000 a year, what if you have a record that comes up for $200 like I did, and I was only asking for the Melbourne-Tillman Water Canal from a certain date to a certain date? It was like 2 weeks, and it came back 3 months later with a $250 charge. That was my first records request. I couldn't pay for it. Actually, Mr. Heffelfinger offered to pay for it for me when we were sitting at Panera in front of Mr. Abadi. And it just so happens 2 hours later I got the records request back. So thank you for that.
Thank you. All right, that's all the cards I have. All right, moving on to board reports. Mr. Bate.
Commissioner, we have one item that staff, I've been speaking with the county attorney, and it relates to the District 2 Commission office and the staff. until such time as the governor appoints a District 2 commissioner or there's an election for a District 2 commissioner and that commissioner is sworn in. There are a variety of options that are available to the board regarding the continued operation of the District 2 Commission office, and we are looking for board direction on how to proceed. So I can outline very briefly what some options are for you. The first one would be that the board would maintain oversight and management of the District 2 office, and then District 2 staff could just provide board with updates on as appropriate, or the board could ask staff questions on what's going on. That's one option. A second option would be that the oversight and management of the District 2 office would occur through the county manager. And I would then bring, during my report, any issues to the board's attention that that you may want to, or I need any direction on. The third would be that the oversight would be maintained by the board, and then day-to-day management and oversight would be by myself as the county manager, and the board would appoint someone from the District 2 office staff as the appointing authority to make the decisions for the office, and then I would sign that person's time card. That's the third option. And then, of course, there's always the fourth option that the board wants to do any combination of that or something else. We just are looking for board direction on how to proceed, since it's a rather unusual situation with that staff.
Okay. Commissioner Pritchett, did you want?
Yes, ma'am. Would it be possible to have Mr. Van Valkenburg? And I said his name correctly. Mm-hmm. I just want to ask a couple questions. This is tough. First of all, I do want to open with that we do miss Brian Lober here tonight. He had some circumstances that came up to where he wasn't able to serve anymore, and I just wish him well. And I did want to say that I hope him and his family are able to heal with the recent death in his family. So I did want to start open with that, of course, and I hope you're doing right, doing well, Mr. Lober. This is difficult to figure out, so I'm hoping you guys have some ideas, because we now have a whole section of the county that doesn't have representation of a commissioner. And so with this, it's difficult to figure out how to navigate this, but I do know at the end of the day, the four of us are going to be responsible for this as well. So I'm interested in hearing what you guys' ideas are. County manager, you came out with some good recommendations here. But I do feel like Mr. Van Valkenburg, I want to call you Mr. Fritz, it's easier. I think he is a critical person from knowing that district up there. So I just wanted to open with that and hear what you guys are thinking. I do have concerns still right now trying to figure out that budget with some things that we're trying to figure through. So the budget constraints are at the utmost part of my head right now. So Commissioner, I just want to throw out an idea that I do like the thought of having Mr. Fritz, and that he would directly report to us like any county staff with things going on in District 2 for us to have information. Here's the thing. I don't know that we're even going to have someone appointed, what's the word I'm looking for? Appointed. Thank you. Appointed by the governor. I've heard so many people tell me that's probably never going to be an appointment. It's going to end up going to elections. So I'm thinking that we keep Mr. Fritz, and we just let him do the liaison as far as there, and maybe just let the rest of the office, just do something different. But I want to hear from you guys or see what he needs. But that's just something I've been kicking around with trying how to figure out this budget we got to absorb as well. So.
And we obviously don't talk, because I called Mr. Van Valkenburg this afternoon because I didn't want to put him on the spot publicly and wanted to see what his comfort level was. And he, of course, graciously and very thoughtfully said yes, he would help. So he would remain at the District 2 office. And ultimately, this is kind of a unique situation. We never expected, nor have we ever anticipated. I want District 2 to have representation. Absolutely. Sadly, they won't have a vote or a voice unless the governor appoints. But, looking at the budget and given, your staff, you have your salary, and I passed it out to the board. And I asked you for this later on this afternoon, and it wasn't on the agenda because obviously there was no agenda item for this, but I asked Mr. Van Valkenburg the salaries and the positions of his office staff, and you have another full-time employee and another part-time employee. Do you think, and please feel free to speak freely on this because you don't have to say, I know you would never want to be put in the position to have to make an employee choice, but do you think between yourself and a part-time employee, you could get the job of the District 2 office done? And the reason why I ask is because you're not working for a commissioner, so you won't be tasked with those day-to-day, I need you to do this for me, I need you to do that for me, or I need you to do this research. You're sort of just oversight and making sure that your constituents in District 2 are taken care of, and that's kind of at least my primary focus right now.
Yes, I think things have slowed down. I feel it already, so I think that I could work with that for sure. Maybe what we could do if we went in that direction, or you chose to go into that direction, if things become a little difficult and I can't manage that, then I would come back to you and let you know. But I think obviously things will slow down without having a commissioner in the office. So.
And you, as the chief of staff, I didn't want to talk to your employees because you're their direct supervisor, but I guess you can only guesstimate if the part-timer would agree to stay on, but at least that would be that's kind of where I'm leaning, at least for the District 2 office for now. And if they have more needs, you can certainly let us know. But I want to make sure that those calls are answered. I want to make sure there's somebody full-time in that District 2 office, so if someone calls, someone's there to answer and help them out.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Tobias?
Thanks, Madam Chair. And I think of the 4 options presented, I think option 3 provides the most flexible approach and will serve the constituents of District 2 the best. The previous commissioner said over and over and over again, District 2 is unique, and there is no doubt that District 2 is very unique. And I've worked with Mr. Van Valkenburg before, and he's been nothing but straightforward, honest, and I think that the folks of District 2 would be very lucky to have someone who, quite frankly, has dealt with them on a daily basis while his time is there. I agree that with the lack of extra work that would go in with research and all that stuff for a commissioner, maybe we don't need that extra. Wouldn't need that extra staff. So I think that, giving Mr. Van Valkenburg that part-time is probably the wise way to go. I don't think, however, though, we need to. But I think option 3, when it comes to the functioning of District 2, is probably the best. I don't want to have Mr. Van Valkenburg need a packet of pens and have to come to the board for that. I think that the county manager, who also I have great faith in, can oversee the day-to-day. I don't think that we need to worry about any large amounts of resources until we get everything figured out. We don't know whether or not there's extra money left over, but again, I don't want to hamper that office on the nickel and diming and having him to wait those 2 weeks between. So I think that that's something, I know it'll be extra work for the county manager's office, but I think it probably will serve the folks of District 2. Quite frankly, the policy in my office is if there's an issue with District 2 or any other district, I speak with the commissioner first and then come to us secondarily, and it's difficult to say that now. But I think if we designate Fritz here as the point person there, I think that he has a better handle on that unique district than what we do. But I think it's very important that we recognize him as managing that office until such time that the governor makes a decision to put someone there. So again, I fully support option 3, which is that hybrid between board for larger decisions and the day-to-day basis. The county manager, and I sincerely, not that I'm sure he wants it, but I appreciate Fritz up there in the penalty box. So especially when it comes to zoning issues, I think he would have insightful input certainly knowing a lot more about the water issues that face District 2. I would feel a lot more comfortable with knowing the input that they get at the meetings with him up there. So that's I'm on 3, option 3, Madam Chair.
And you're okay with him having a part-time employee? So if he ever needs to take a day off, he can actually take a day off?
I think it's far too much to have him by himself there, answering the phones, doing the liaison between the constituents, and it's way too much to ask of one person. I certainly wouldn't expect, even though he's got a lot of letters that follow his name. He's a JD and an MBA, and I'm sure 5 other things. So he's very qualified, but more importantly, he has the knowledge of that district. So yes, I think an extra person there, the part-time person there that he may want, a little bit more, but I think that's the one that financially makes sense until we get all the finances figured out in that office.
Commissioner Pritchett?
Yeah, Mr. Van Valkenburg, I'm just going to ask, as you're gathering information for the meetings, as far as zoning items and stuff, that you wouldn't mind giving us all a call and briefing us on the items coming up, just as any staff member would, so that we're doing the best for your district. If you wouldn't mind doing that, I know you'll be at the briefings as well, but if you would just make sure we have all the information we would need to make sure that we don't mess up District 2. Thank you, sir. Okay.
Commissioner Smith?
I would like to reserve judgment because this is a very fluid situation that none of us are familiar with. So I think out of the box, what we're talking about works, but I think that it would behoove us to revisit this maybe in 30 days or 6 weeks and see how he's doing, get his feedback, and go from there. That way, if we need to revisit this, we've already laid the groundwork to do that.
I don't know what that means, revisit. I'm just trying to help him today.
Well, I know that, but I'm just saying, if we reach out to him in 3 or 4 weeks and do this again, maybe we can get some information from him that is very pertinent, that we may change course and give him a full-time employee or cut the part-time employee. We don't know.
And I at least differ from you in my thought where I want that office to have some stability. And I think Mr. Van Valkenburg, without you telling me this, because obviously we didn't have that discussion, I think he deserves the stability as well. And I think if he has further needs than the part-time employee, he's going to be the first person that picks up the phone and calls us. Fritz may be a quiet guy, but he's not shy. So I don't know. I would want at least a little bit of security for not just District 2 residents to feel more comfortable knowing that there's somebody stable in that office. And if we need to make change, the governor could appoint somebody next week. We just don't know. Based on the history, I don't see that happening. And that's kind of why I wanted to have some concrete things in place now so that office has some stability. Because a lot's happened, in that office over the last 30, 60 days. And I'd like to know that Fritz is going to stick around for the long haul.
Well, I don't doubt that he will. I'm just saying that this gives us the opportunity to just revisit it without making it look like we're, in 6 weeks, if we want to revisit this, I don't want him to feel bad or look bad that we're saying, well, report to us. If we tell him up front that we want some feedback, then it's just part of the routine that we've already set up. That's my point.
Commissioner Pritchett?
I'm really kind of expecting a phone call a week from you to keep me caught up on what you have. I need time to study your issues as well. And at that time, if something's not right, you can just fuss away at me and then call them and fuss at them too, and then we'll figure it out for you.
Will do.
Okay.
And are you comfortable if we move forward with a plan tonight? Are you comfortable with that plan?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm good. Whatever you guys want to do. I just threw that out there.
Do we need a motion, Abby, to?
Recommend a motion to direct the board to direct the manager and to put that in process, yes.
Okay. Commissioner Tobias?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion for option 3, the hybridization of the management between the board and the county manager's office, and also give direction that Mr. Van Valkenburg be granted the ability to have the part-time staff that was previously discussed.
I second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is that clear to the clerk? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And obviously, Fritz, pick up the phone. You've got my number now.
I do.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
And good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Who's next? Got my agenda buried here. Ms. Jornby?
Yes, I have a brief update. Since our last meeting, the county has received correspondence and a copy of a resolution from the town of Malabar. This is regarding the Malabar Scrub Sanctuary. They are requesting the initiation of conflict resolution proceedings. As you may recall, this board actually adopted a resolution about, I guess it was February, which actually bypassed that procedure. At this time, I'm just seeking board direction if for some reason we would like to participate in the dispute resolution instead. We are prepared a complaint to file in court, so that would take us outside that process. Just wanted to see if there was any direction from this board.
Everybody looks to the commissioner in the district.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. I think the board was pretty clear, and I appreciate them passing that, but that could have happened, ages ago. So thank you, but no thank you is my perspective. I hope the board would continue with the direction that we went on weeks ago. And I'd like to get this resolved before, and I think we were pretty clear on what direction we were interested in going in, and they decided to go in another, which they certainly have that ability to, but now let's put this in somebody else's hands, and that would be the court systems.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Nothing further.
All right. Commissioner Pritchett?
No report.
Commissioner Tobias?
No report, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes, I would like to highlight our journey to Miami via Brightline. And I have some pictures if we're ready for those. All right. Well, that was the professional part. Now I have some individual pictures. Do we have those? Yeah. So the picture on the left. Oh, yeah. There we go. That's the inside of the train, and they made a point to tell us that these designs for these trains came from interviewing architects that built small homes and travel trailers and recreational vehicles, because they wanted to be able to pack as much into that small space as they could. And they really succeeded. They've got very comfortable leather seats. They've got, at every seat, there's a 110 outlet, and there's also a couple of UBS ports. They've just done a wonderful job. And the bathrooms and the doors, all the doors are touchless. When you approach, the doors open. When you go into the bathroom, you don't have to turn on the water. You just put your hand under the faucet, and then it's like T-shaped. So when you're done washing your hands, you bring your hands to the side, and then the air comes out and dries your hands. It's pretty amazing. You don't touch anything. So they put a lot of thought into these things, and they said that Amtrak is so impressed that they're ordering their trains to copy these things. Because if you've ridden Amtrak, which I did back in November, I was pretty impressed with Amtrak. But this just blows them away. Next. Oh, and the card that everybody's holding up, that's a I pledge to stay off the tracks card. This is something that they want to impose and bring to people's attention, that these trains are going to be traveling at 79 to 125 miles an hour. So if you're used to seeing a train half a mile away and you're going to try and beat the train, you're probably not going to beat it, because now it's traveling at 3 and 4 times what you're used to. So it's important for people to be aware of this. I know that we're much better shape here than they are down south, because when we were on this train down south, there's an awful lot of crossing. They don't have the hardened crossovers that we have. They have crossovers that just have one arm, so people can drive around it. It's scary. So you can thank our former commissioners and the last commission, because we negotiated those and we didn't have to pay for them. Next picture. This was a gathering. We were addressed by the CEO and president of Brightline. He's on the right-hand side there. This is just a fraction of the people that were there. There were about 40, I think, that attended this. We had, I think Tom Nider mentioned that we had Chamber of Commerce people there, we had business people there, we had some staff there, and we had firefighters and law enforcement. And it was very beneficial for, I think, everybody. It opened their eyes, especially our law enforcement people and fire, because they were able to go into these trains and talk to their law enforcement and their firefighters to give them an idea of what's there, what can happen if you have a crash, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a very informative day. And the guy on the right there is their chief of law enforcement. I can't remember his name. Maybe I have. Oh, Rob Gatchell. He comes from New Jersey. Don't hold that against him. Next. And this is a group picture of everybody that attended. It was just a very interesting and informational day. That's it. It's the end of my board report. I wish I could have taken all you guys, but we have that thing called sunshine. I couldn't.
Yeah, we'd had to public notice it. All right. Well, I don't have any report tonight. And thank you, board, for your patience. All right. Thank you. Call this meeting adjourned.
And a good time.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.